So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Naruto was planned for going Tsume private bedroom movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Naruto trailed behind his classmates, who were already disappearing into the far-off distance. This was not fair. He wanted to make it to the first day of school on time. Everything looked to be going okay, until he tripped and lost sight of them and their parents. Where did they go? He wondered, frantically searching for them. It was almost school time, and if he didn't make it before the bell rang, he was going to be in trouble. The problem was that he did not know where the school was. Being only 6 meant that the memory of one Uzumaki Naruto was far from perfect. He asked for directions while he walked across the busy streets. Hey, mister. Can you tell me where the Konoha Academy is? The man just ignored the whiskered boy and kept on walking. Naruto didn't give up, however, and asked someone else for the elusive directions. Surely the first person just didn't know how to get there. The logical mechanisms of a little boy's mind were already acting as a defense system to protect the innocent child from trauma that was waiting to come. Miss, do you know how to get to my school? I am lost. Hey miss. This kept going on for the better part of half an hour. Naruto would ask how to get to class and would just get ignored. The blonde boy was feeling downtrodden by all this, but didn't show it. Already he could see clouds gathering in the sky. It was going to rain today, just like most days. Konoha was a rainy city, after all. That was one of the reasons why so many plants grew in the hidden leaf. Not that Naruto was aware of this, he just didn't like getting wet by the rain. He started to get angry. He was mad at himself at that moment for only wearing a white t-shirt and organ pants. It wasn't the best choice of clothing when dealing with cold weather. He bought an orange jumper a while ago, but he wouldn't fit into those for a very long time. Naruto took some cover near a shop that sold ramen as the rain started to fall from the sky. Looking around through his blonde locks, Naruto saw a man staring at him. The man smiled and ushered Naruto to take a seat at the stall. The 6-year-old did as instructed and sat on the stool. He looked around the place and noticed this was Ichiraku ramen stand. Up until this point in his life, Uzumaki Naruto had no idea what ramen was. Ever had ramen before, kid? The man asked, already making a bowl for someone. Naruto shook his head and continued to watch the bald person make noodles. He could smell the food from here and had to admit that it smelled very good. Well, maybe I'll let you try some one day. It is high on calories, but it is rather filling. By the way, how come you aren't at school, kid? The man asked. He looked puzzled why the Kyuubi brat was not in the playgrounds. They weren't even in the real ninja academy yet, just a branch of the academy meant to take care of little kids. Generally speaking, the branch was not meant for learning, but was more of a daycare center. How Naruto was not dropped off on time made the chef a bit confused. He suspected that neglect had a lot to do with it. Uzumaki Naruto was not the most liked individual in these parts. A murderer would be held with more respect than the blonde 6-year-old boy in front of him. Sir, can you tell me how to get to class? I was asking around, but no one would tell me anything, Naruto asked after a moment. He figured he would give this another try. This old man was a lot nicer than the ones he met on the streets, in either case. In addition, he said he would let him try his food someday. No one had told Naruto never to accept treats from strangers. Tucci was taken aback by that question. How could anyone expect a 6-year-old child to travel half the distance of the town to get to class? And to do the feat without any instructions? Shaking his head, he let himself cool down before replying. There was no need to make the boy afraid. He looked at the blonde-haired toddler and shrugged. Not that far, you are almost there. If you just go down that street and turn right, you should be there within a few minutes. Gee, thanks mister, Naruto shouted. He hopped off the stool and ran out into the rain. Tsuki called back for the kid to come back. He had forgotten his bag, but Naruto was too excited to listen to him. Tsuki put the boy's bag behind the counter and went on to making the meals for the lunchtime customers. While he was putting the bag away, though, he noticed something wrong with it. It was just too light. There was no way that the boy was carrying the right amount of material. He opened the bag and found that he was indeed correct. There were only a few sheets of paper and 1 or 2 pencils. That didn't seem right. The boy was supposed to have some reading textbooks and crayons to help with his writing. Scowling, Tucci put these thoughts away and went back to making food. His first customer was a man with spiky silver hair. He recognized him immediately. Morning, Kakashi-san. The silver-haired man just nodded and took his seat. He looked around suspiciously. Was that Naruto I saw? Tucci shrugged before answering. Yeah, that was him. Seemed like a good kid to me. From the rumors, I thought he would be more hard-boiled or some kind of troublemaker. Sadly, all I saw was some polite kid who just wanted to get to class on time. Class on time? Wasn't someone supposed to drop him off? Asked the masked ninja, a bit concerned. Well yeah, but you know life has it out for the kid. Nothing seems to go his way, Tucci answered. He already had the silver-haired teen's food ready. Kakashi ate in silence until Tucci spoke up again. You know, when I was a kid they used to make us carry this huge textbook to make us learn kanji. Do they still do that?
Kakashi nodded. He recalled that it was one of the procedures. Yes, I remember that. We have been doing that for as long as I could remember. That has not changed. Why are you asking?
Tucci sighed and elaborated. Well, it seems like Mr. Uzumaki Naruto is missing his textbook. I don't think he is going to have good reading skills at this rate. First day of preschool and he is already behind. Oh gosh, I just remembered Ayame won't be here for the lunch break. Say, Kakashi-san, are you doing anything right now? No, not really. Why? Mind bringing this bag to the kid's classroom? I think he might need it, Tucci answered. As school ended, Naruto ran back home as fast as his legs could take him. He had seen too much for his own good that day. He always knew he was different from other people, but until he saw the kids with their parents, he did not realize just how different he was. Growing up at the orphanage taught him that he wasn't the only one suffering in this world. In truth, many people suffered, and some people's lives were worse than his own life. He had seen children who couldn't see, girls who couldn't talk, a boy with no legs, and even a girl with no arms and legs. All of these were leftovers from the Nine Tails attack. He had seen it all and ignored their pain, just as others ignored his. Opening the door of his apartment, he tried not to recall the day's events. Everyone in the class ignored him. He expected that. The same happened in the orphanage. What he didn't expect was to be treated with such scorn by the shinobi instructors. The Chunin, Suzume's sensei, who was in charge of the daycare, didn't answer any of his questions, and when Naruto asked for a textbook to read from, the mature lady had said, "You don't need to learn to read. You are fine or better off not bothering. Go play in the sandbox by yourself."
Naruto didn't know what to say to that. The only reason he came to school was to learn to read, since reading had power. Reading was the ability he needed to do many things, like make up lists or fill out forms. Unlike many other children, Naruto did not have the luxury of allowing his parents to do everything for him. Especially when it came to paying the bills.
This was because the orphan didn't have any parents. He had to learn to do everything on his own. No one else would help him. No one else wanted to help him. Naruto would just have to help himself, but to do that he would have to learn to read. It was that simple. Opening a textbook that he had mysteriously found in his bag, it must have been one of those strokes of luck that he had heard people talk about. He looked up the kanji and started to list them off in his mind. It was hard because, although the picture book was meant for kids his age, without someone to supervise him, it became twice as unlikely that he was going to learn any of the advanced kanji he would need to read signs and letters. He was glad the Hokage had taken the time to teach him to read the basics. That would save him lots of trouble in the near future, but Naruto's education was far from over. After going over this many times in his mind, he decided that it was time to take a rest. He had those nightmares again, where a giant fox was destroying the city. Not again. Does this have to happen every night? He complained, after waking up from the lifelike dream. Feeling restless, Naruto decided that a dreamful sleep wasn't his best option. On a regular day he would have went right back to sleep, but today just was not that type of day. He got off the small bed and put on some sneakers. He always went to sleep wearing the same thing he wore during the daytime. It allowed for quick escape when someone would break into his home to harass him. It wasn't that they attacked him or anything, but sometimes they almost did. It was the fear that someday they would cross the line that really added a level of danger in the night. Naruto didn't know why people did that, nor did he put that much thought into it. As a child, he was wondering many things about the world, and all of these ideas were painting a very harsh reality. Though, a large part of him was also blocking many of his life's memories. He recalled overhearing one day that all the Chunins were going on a rampage when they heard Naruto had been allowed into the academy. There were so many ninjas there in front of the Hokage tower screaming to not let him in the academy. Naruto didn't completely understand why they were doing that to him. He hadn't done anything to them, so why did they want to make his life miserable? He had dreams and desires just like everyone else. He was human like everyone else. It hurt to see people accuse him of being a monster when he was just a little boy. Closing the door behind him, he made his way through the steps. Like most nights it was cold and Naruto wondered why he never dressed for cold weather. He hoped he would grow into his orange jumper soon. Taking a leap from the steps, Naruto's hands touched the sandy floor as he made impact with the ground. He looked around to see if anyone noticed that he had wandered out from his housing. Sometimes he could feel someone watching him and see shadows and glimpses of white masks flicker in his peripheral vision, but whenever he turned around, they were not there. He had heard rumors like everyone else that there were people out there who watched people in secret, for the safety of the village, but Naruto had yet to see any of them. Running down the streets,
He looked around and saw that there was no one out. The moon was enormous and large tonight. He heard an eerie howl in the distance, which creeped him out and spurred him to run faster, getting into a jog. He hoped he could tire himself out to sleep fast. He had a big day at the academy tomorrow.
As his feet raced faster and faster down the streets, Naruto noticed that he was no longer in the town region, but was closer to the forest regions where the clans lived. He remembered from a lesson from the Hokage. Naruto looked around the area and saw lush green forests. Large pine trees as tall as buildings were reaching into the sky, and he noticed this part of the Konoha district was so much darker. Perhaps it was because there was no lighting, or perhaps it was the increase of vegetation and the absence of houses that bothered him. He continued to run when he started hearing all sorts of creepy clicking and rusting sounds around him. He saw a giant centipede eating into the carcass of a bird in his path and didn't bother to stay and wonder how the bird died because he saw the pincers coming out from the giant thing's mouth. Scared and worried that he might become the thing's dinner soon, he raced deeper into the forests. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, he conceded to himself, his mind conjuring all sorts of monstrosities in the darkness around him. Hearing more howls and the rustling and clicking intensifying, he thought that he might have been safer with the giant bug. At least he could have squished the bug. It was only about the size of a puppy. But how can a bug be so big? Where am I? The little boy found himself in a strange new place, with strange new sounds. His vivid imagination conjured all sorts of monstrosities in the darkness for him to get eaten by, so he swerved away from any sort of movement that he could register. He was overjoyed when he saw a light in the distance. Perhaps it was a house. He could really use a house right now, even if they wouldn't let him in. The fact that he would be able to stay near there until the morning would be a great asset for his survival, and everyone knew that monsters hated light. True to his thoughts, as he neared the light the scary noises got fainter and fainter. When he got to the house, he noticed that it was enormous, a classic Japanese-style compound built for defense. Naruto had no idea to which clan's grounds he stumbled on. He was just glad that he had escaped with his hide intact. He got closer to the compound and looked around to see if anyone was nearby. When he noticed the coast was clear and there weren't any traps, he slowly made his way near the house. As he got closer, he suddenly heard that strange howling noise from before, which drew his attention to a large dog howling at the moon in the distance, making him instantly freeze in fright. He didn't want to get eaten by the dog, just after he had escaped the creepy crawlies. Even so, he didn't want to be back in the forest with the giant bugs. That wouldn't do. Dogs are insects, he would take the dogs. At the very least they wouldn't eat him alive, and didn't they say dog was man's best friend? The dog would not hurt its friend, would it? Apparently Naruto lacked knowledge of wolves and their feeding habits. Judging by its large size that easily dwarfed the small boy and the loudness of its voice as it howled at the moon, it might be inclined to break that one saying, mused Naruto. He just hoped that it had eaten recently. Uzumaki Naruto was no coward, however. He went into the compound grounds and scoped out the area. He again confirmed that the coast was clear and went to the front door, hoping that someone would answer. When he reached the wooden portal, he took a deep breath and knocked once. No one answered. He took another deep breath and knocked again, and again, with the same results. It looked like this place was either deaf or they just did not want to answer him. He knocked on the door repeatedly, getting a bit angry by this cruel turn of events. At the very least these people could open the door and tell him to leave. Naruto knew that they probably wouldn't let him in, but he had to try. After trying this for the better part of 10 minutes, Naruto decided to see what was going on. He slowly crept onto the walls of the house, hoping to not get spotted by the large creature howling at the moon. He tried to peer into a nearby window, but noticed that he was too short to reach it. He saw a log nearby and dragged it near the window. He looked inside the window after climbing on the log, only to notice that the place was empty. Why isn't there anyone inside? He wondered, getting frustrated by the constant setbacks. Naruto then decided to try another window. Perhaps he would have better luck. He tried every window on the first floor and realized that there was no one there. Since the lights were on in the house, any occupant must have been in the second floor, he figured. Naruto was determined to find this elusive person, since he really didn't want to spend the night outdoors, and decided to away into the second floor. After a bit of searching, he found a ladder that he couldn't reach leading to a window at the second floor. He was able to reach the ladder with the liberal use of a few logs lying nearby. After he finally climbed the ladder and could see into the room, Naruto noticed that it was very dark inside, but he could hear something in the room, a growling and some kind of moan. Curious, he peered into the darkness and still didn't see anything. After carefully scoping the room out from the window, he noticed that there was something or someone moving in the bed. He couldn't see the person very well because of the darkness, but he could make out faint outlines of spiky hair. The spiky hair kept flinging in many different directions for some reason, and Naruto wondered if the person with that hair was in terrible pain because she kept on moaning as if something was hurting her, yet at the same time she made noises that confused him. Curious at the odd sounds, he took a step through the opened window, slowly as to not make a sound, and got closer and closer to the person in the bed. It had to be a woman, though, because the pitch was too high for a guy. The 6-year-old could smell the heavy scent of musk and was attracted to it by some unknown instinct that was within his system. Someday he would figure out that it was called pheromones, but, at this point in his life, it was simply a strange attraction he felt towards the woman who was in the bed. Naruto wondered if he should call out to her, that it would be okay. He would do something to ease her pain, but he wasn't sure how she would react to him just sneaking up on her while she was in the middle of doing something to herself in her bedroom. He could tell that she was doing it to herself because he could now see through the darkness due to the open window and light coming from under the closed door. He could see that her hand was poking or jabbing at something. When he got closer, he noticed that it was somewhere near her PP. Oh yes. The woman in the bed moaned again, releasing another shout that made Naruto almost jump. The child started crawling on the floor so that he would not draw attention to himself. He was on a mission to learn what was causing the woman to feel so good, or feel so much pain. It didn't make any sense to him and he had to know. His childish mind needed answers, and this woman was going to give him those answers. Oh, yes, 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 she chanted, repeating it over and over. Naruto could feel the floor shake from her movements. The mattress started to make those creaky noises he would get when jumped on his mattress. The woman was thrashing violently, screaming and moaning. He wondered why no one else in the house noticed this, but if they didn't notice the large creature howling to the moon outside, they probably wouldn't hear this either. Naruto was finally close enough to get a good look at the woman's face. At first he was a bit surprised because he recognized her from today at the academy. She was Kiba's mother. There was no doubt in his mind that the woman thrashing in the bed, shifting her hands in and out of her private parts, was his mother. Spiky brown hair, olive complexion, thick dark red lips, and fangs. Naruto could clearly see her fangs, because her mouth was open as she bucked on the bedpost. Oh god, oh god. I am. Naruto didn't get a chance to hear the rest as he was spotted when his head poked up from the side of the bed to get a clearer view. Tsume stared at him in shock, her lust-filled mind being unable to quite comprehend what she was seeing, but she wouldn't stop jabbing her hands into her privates. She was completely naked, but Naruto had figured that out a while ago by the large womanly counters in her chest and the thick muscular stomach below it. What are you doing here? She moaned. She was almost reaching her peak and not even this invasion of privacy would stop her. She wanted to stop, but she couldn't. It seemed like this boy was about to get an education in the sexual arts before he even hit pre-puberty. Tsume kept pushing her fingers in and out of her flower and her spiky hair was all sweaty. Naruto watched in awe as her body changed into many different forms of red as saliva started to drip out of her mouth and she screamed, "I am coming GG." Tsume didn't get a chance to pass herself out this time, though, because who knows what this little boy was doing in her bedroom. It clearly wasn't Kiba. She had sent him out into the Aburame compound earlier. It was because of this that she was able to work off her monthly cycles. Once a month, like most women, she would ovulate, and during that time she would feel a twisted desire well within her. A desire for sexual gratification. However, she couldn't just find someone to have sex with. Too many times that ended in tragedy. She already knew Kiba's father would not be coming back, wherever he was. She wasn't entirely sure who Hana's father was to this very day. Sex carried too many potential dangerous viruses such as HIV, and she could not risk getting sick when she was the sole provider of her clan. If she died, what would happen to her babies? She knew Hana might be able to take care of herself. She was smart, but what about Kiba? Kiba was a good boy. He had his faults, but he was still a mama's boy. She predicted he would always be a mama's boy, and she liked that about him. It meant that he would treat women with respect someday, or at least that is what she hoped. Masturbating was her way of getting rid of some of that sexual tension she felt when she knew she was ready to have a child, and it had worked for years. Until now, no one had discovered this little secret about her, and if things were to go her way, no one would ever find out. Now she had no other option but to deal with the problem in front of her. With the eyesight she had gained from years of in-the-dark training, she caught a glimpse of the large blue eyes and long spiky blonde hair. The boy looked scared and afraid, and he was backing away into the corner. He even tripped once but still would not keep his eyes off her. Tsume would have felt more embarrassed if she hadn't spent the last 4 years breastfeeding Kiba. The boy really liked his mother's milk. "What are you doing here, little guy?" she asked with a soothing voice. Naruto stopped and looked at the naked woman before him. She was covering herself with a bedsheet and coming closer to him. He knew that peeping on people naked was wrong. He wouldn't want anyone to see his private parts either. He didn't know what to tell her, so he thought the truth would have been the best option. "I got lost," and I tried knocking on the door but no one was home. The Inuzuka matriarch figured it had to be something like that. Were the townspeople now chasing the Kyuubi kid at night? Was he running away from some mob? That didn't seem right because she knew the Hokage would probably have people who did that killed. To her knowledge, Naruto had never been abused by anyone physically. Mentally was a whole other story. Tsume went to the closet nearby and put on a pair of robes. It felt good to have a double layer. She needed it to hide some of the sweat on her body. No need to keep giving this child a free show. She figured the boy would have a heart attack at some point with all the education he had received this night. The kid must be scared out of his mind seeing someone like her do that, if he even knew what that was. But why did you come into my room? You could have just knocked and I would have just answered, she asked. She got a towel from the closet and started drying her hair. Naruto was still looking at her, his eyes never leaving her body. He felt really embarrassed but he couldn't look away. It wasn't that he was sexually attracted to her, he was far too young for that. It was more that no one ever really talked to Naruto, ever. He was a lonely child, with a lonely existence, and any attention he got, he milked it for all it was worth. I thought someone was hurting, so I thought I could help them, he shyly explained. The mother smiled at his innocence, despite feeling somewhat annoyed that someone heard her love shouts. It wasn't meant to be heard by anyone, much less a child, but he probably must have realized that by now, so no need to further cause more problems for the orphan. That is nice of you, kiddo, but what made you think I needed your help? You were screaming pretty loud. A tick mark came up on her head and she tried not to cough thinking of how much the boy had seen. Normally she would keep her squeals at minimum but sometimes she just hit the right spots and lost control. Yeah, alright, I'll buy that. There was an odd pause between the two of them as Tsume wondered if she should explain what exactly Naruto had seen her do. She could lie to him and tell him nothing happened, that this was just some kind of training, but then he would have even stranger questions. Perhaps it was in her best interest to tell him the truth if nothing better than to get rid of the feeling of dread coursing through her. Uzumaki Naruto had so much to deal with in his life already, so why did she have to add more confusion to it? She didn't like the prospect of letting the child know about the uglier or beautiful side of growing up, and she sure as hell knew she wasn't the right person to ask for the facts of life. Listen, kid, I think we need to talk about what you saw today. She trailed off. She didn't keep her eyes away from Naruto but she didn't look at him directly either. Naruto for his part just shook his head. I won't tell anyone what I saw, promise. Tsume sighed in relief. The kid was smarter than he looked. Even while looking messy and afraid, he held on to somewhat of a calm demeanor when speaking to her, despite her being several heads and knees taller than the brat. He looked so small and adorable with his large blue eyes looking up at her with curiosity and something else that she couldn't exactly decipher. Yeah, I figured as much, but you want to know what I was doing, don't ya? She asked. She already knew the answer, but also knew it was best to confirm it already. She shook off some of the sweat that remained in her spiky brown hair and combed some fringes with her clawed fingers. Naruto watched this in fascination and didn't take his large blue eyes off those exotic hands. I do, but if you don't want to talk about it, it is fine. Really, Naruto pleaded, feeling mortified that she would have to explain what she was doing to herself naked. He knew something was going to go down, and it was going to come hard on him when she let him know what she was doing. Adults always talked to kids in formal ways when they were about to deliver them some bad news. Naruto didn't like any kind of news. Anything any adult had to say to him in private just made him more miserable. When the Hokage talked to him in private in a formal way, he had let him know that he was an orphan with no parents, and when he asked where their graves were, the Hokage shook his head and said to ask it again when he was older. Later on, Naruto was held back in the orphanage and he was given a private talk that he would be moving out. He had begged the matron to let him stay, but she just shook her head and told him to pack his things. Earlier that year, his caretaker in his small apartment talked to him in private and asked him how his life was going. He said it was going all right and she smiled and said goodbye. Naruto hadn't seen her since and hadn't seen the Hokage since then either, though he knew that he was a busy man and there were a lot of people in the village. How could that person make time for him? He was just Uzumaki Naruto, a village orphan. His past was so mysterious that Naruto often wondered what kind of dark secrets lay behind it. Every time he asked anyone about his parents, things got very strenuous and people would stop talking. It felt like they were hiding a horrible secret from him, and that did not make his self-esteem any better as he grew up. Children need to know who their parents are or were, at least know that they came from mothers, that someone or something gave birth to them. Naruto didn't even have any proof, like many orphans, that he even had a mother to start with. He had been searching for the truth for the last year or so, but came up blank. Nothing, not a single thing he could find about a female Uzumaki of any kind. It was as if all traces were destroyed, or even more frightening, perhaps he never had a mother to start with. But that couldn't be possible, could it? Everyone had a mother. Every baby came from a woman, did they not? He was talking to Kiba's mom at this moment. Kiba had a mother. Sasuke had a mother. Shikamaru had a mother. Sakura had one, too.
But Naruto did not. Tsume tapped the boy's head for a second, trying to get him to stop spacing out. Hey kid, you look like you just spaced out on me. Don't do that, it is sort of annoying and it probably isn't good for your brain if you overstrain it too hard. Listen, go downstairs and there is a dining table, I'll meet ya there in a minute. Naruto didn't answer her at first, but when he got the gist of what she said, he nodded his small mess of blonde hair and ran downstairs. He noticed that the house was well kept, despite how ragged Tsume looked. It seemed she was some kind of neat freak, because it was not messy at all. He saw a few rooms when he was going down the steps and noticed a small white puppy sleeping in one of them.
As he got to the first floor he could see how large and spacious the house was. From the outside it looked large enough, but inside it was even bigger. He could see many different types of ninja tools mounted on the walls and was impressed at the amount of Junin jackets were neatly saddled near the living room. It seemed Tsume had a lot of them, when she needed them at least. The blonde took his time getting to the kitchen, admiring the house, and almost tripped over a small dog that was curling up on the floor. He looked at it and saw that it was not one dog, but 3 small pups all sleeping on one another. They looked like triplets and Naruto could tell that they were probably female. He didn't know how, but his instincts told him so. Careful not to wake them up, he went around the sleeping dogs and into the kitchen. As he expected, the kitchen was large and well kept, there was no food out or anything and he could smell the gentle scent of pine. Tsume must have been a good mother to keep this house in such fine shape, especially with a son like Kiba. He remembered the boy spilling all his food on his jacket and crying that it was all Naruto's fault, despite the fact that Naruto was being held in for detention during lunch, for being late.
It seemed like many kids blamed him for things he did not do in school. The part that bugged him was that the teachers believed them over him. Some things were just plain ridiculous, yet the sensei still thought Naruto did it.
He wondered if he should have a talk with the old man one day to see if he could get better treatment. He didn't go to school to be ridiculed, he came to learn. He needed to grow up fast because no one was going to help him do anything. Naruto sat down on one of the chairs in the kitchen and admired the handiwork. It was a lot sturdier than his chairs and looked far more expensive too. If he were to guess, it probably cost as much as his bed. He waited patiently for Kiba's mother to come downstairs.
He didn't have to wait long as she came down wearing a black t-shirt and matching black short shorts. Naruto noticed now in the light that she had a small amount of hair on her feet. He wondered why she chose to wear such baggy clothing, but that helped explain the mystery.
Tsume looked where Naruto was looking and saw he was staring at her feet. She smiled and shrugged. I know, I have let myself go a bit. Haven't had a lot of time to do some trimming in years. It isn't like it is going to just trim itself, but time just has this way of moving on, and before I knew it I had all these growing on my legs. It isn't a lot, Naruto said. I can hardly notice it, really. Come on, you're being nice, kid. Even I could tell that this is something I don't want to be looking at. Some old woman's hairy feet. Damn, I really need to shave, she answered. Though I've got to say, with Hannah always borrowing my razor for her pups, I guess it sort of makes sense that I haven't given a lot of attention to these bad boys. Why do you call your feet bad boys? Naruto asked. They aren't even male. Never mind, kid. Never mind, she laughed. Then she saw him and realized again why she came downstairs. She sat down at the head of the table opposite him. She noticed Naruto scrunching his hands on top of it and could tell he was more than just a bit nervous. Relax, I told you I am not here to hurt you. If anything, I should be the one who is afraid.
I told you I won't tell anyone. Naruto protested. I keep my promises, I swear.
Again, Tsume smiled. He was a good kid. If only Kiba was as nice. She knew Kiba would probably have used that information as blackmail. She really needed to spank that boy. Hannah would have done the same too. She wondered again if she was doing a good job raising her children, if this is what they were growing up to be. I know. You don't have to tell me twice. I believe you, Naruto. That is another thing I have to ask, Naruto said immediately. How do you know my name? Tsume just looked puzzled. Cause everyone knows your name? Uzumaki Naruto. 6 years old. The village troublemaker? I am not a troublemaker, Naruto said. I didn't do it, those pranks weren't me. People kept blaming me for all those things and I didn't do it. How the hell does a kid just climb a 10-feet building and spray paint the imprints of someone's bum onto it? Yeah, good point, Tsume barked. I didn't really think you did that either. Come to think of it, weren't you in toddler classes during those times? I think I heard Ino complaining about a blonde who kept asking questions. That was me, Naruto mumbled. I was behind the class in a lot of things. I needed some clarification. Clarification? What the hell? Kid, Why do you know some big words, if you are so far behind? Tsume wondered. Come to think of it, you talk almost like you are some kind of adult.
Huh, what do you mean? Doesn't everyone talk like this? I know Sasuke does, Naruto answered. Hinata does too, come to think of it. That is because Sasuke is an Uchiha, their schooling is very precise and thorough. They learn things far before the rest of us get a chance to even glance at them. Kid, you talk like you are at least 8 or 9 years old, which I know isn't possible considering you're only the same age as my son, she said. Though, I have to say I didn't know that about Hinata-chan, haven't heard her talk that much, ever.
She didn't talk, more like said goodbye in some formal way to some guy with a spiral on his forehead, Naruto said. He didn't look too happy to be dropping her off, he looked downright angry, actually. The mother processed that little tidbit. I assumed he wouldn't be that happy. He is more or less a slave to that clan of his, kiddo. Slave? Naruto gasped. Is that allowed in Konoha? Well, not exactly, but clan affairs are clan affairs. We aren't really allowed to interfere in those kind of things, she shrugged. I think we are getting off topic, though. I should probably tell you what you saw today so you can get home and not talk about this to anyone, seriously. Naruto looked eager to learn and kept bobbing his head up and down in some single motion like some kind of pendulum. I won't tell, promise. All right, smarty, the mother grinned, feeling more than a bit nervous. What do you know about the birds and the bees? Huh? Well, that answers my question, she muttered, nodding in approval. Okay, to start off let me explain to you where babies come from. I already know where babies come from, Naruto protested, looking annoyed. I am not stupid. I know that they come from the mother's stomach. If you want to have a baby, you keep eating and eating, and your stomach gets so big that it has its own baby. Then after some time you poo out the baby and ta-da, it is born. Naruto looked like he answered a difficult question easily. Tsume palmed her face, but she had to admit that was actually pretty close to the truth, but not there yet. Who told you this? No one, Naruto said. Everyone should know this, it makes perfect sense, and why would someone need to tell me his? It isn't like it is some big secret or anything. You have to keep eating right, so that the baby gets bigger. Naruto, if say I were to just eat a lot today, would I have a baby? She asked. She was genuinely curious what his answer would be. Say I went to Ichiraku and ate lots of ramen and then I was full, would I have a baby? Haven't you seen other girls stuff themselves and have kids the next day? Say that Ino girl, if she eats a lot, do you see her suddenly pregnant? Well, no, not really, Naruto blushed. But that can be explained. You need to be an adult and then eat to have a kid. Ino is too small to have a baby, she is practically a baby. Babies can't have babies, it makes no sense. She had to admit Naruto had a point. The kid had a good imagination and the way he was using logic was a bit strange, but she had to comply. It sort of worked. Okay, I'll take that as a real answer. But have you ever wondered then why when you see babies there is usually a father nearby? Didn't they always say that you need both a mother and a father to have a baby? I have an answer for that too. The father has to be near the mother so that the baby could look sort of like the dad. Naruto nodded. That is why the fathers always want other guys to be away from their wives, so that the mothers don't have kids that look like guys who aren't their husbands, right? Tsume barked, banging her fist on the table. This kid was funny, downright hilarious. You were absolutely right about that. No guy wants their wife to be near another guy, otherwise the kid might look like that other dude. She grinned. Still, how about you listen to my theory for a minute, it might be a bit more interesting. Naruto tilted his head. What is a theory? She forgets she was talking to a 6-year-old. It is sort of like an explanation. Now pay attention. Let me tell y'all the story about the birds and the bees. Now there aren't any birds or bees involved in my version. I'll give it to you straight. I have work tomorrow so I can't keep doing this shit. I must get some rest. Okay, so then hurry up and tell me. I have class anyway, Naruto replied, looking eager. Alrighty then. Well, when a man likes a woman or a woman likes a man, the two starts acting strange, she said. Basically at some point in your life when you become an adult, you start to want to get near either guys or girls depending on your gender. Eventually you get the courage to ask them out, you know, to dinner and stuff. Oh, I know that. Like a date, yeah, exactly like a date. You do what is called the mating ritual. All of these unneeded things to try and get the person you like to hook up with you, she winked, feeling a bit morbid for corrupting such a child. It is a long and painful journey, but the end result is that you get to mate with the person. You get to have sex with the person, and if you like them enough, you get to have a baby with them too. What is mate and sex? Naruto asked. How does a baby get made through all this? Hold your foxes, kiddo, I am getting there. Anyway, after this entire lovey-dovey process, you start to have sexual feelings for this other person and you eventually do what is called sex. Sex is like this. You get naked and you sort of rub against one another. There are special parts in a man and woman's body that fit like a lock and key, she grinned. But you'll figure those out when you are older. Naruto opened up his pants and looked down, much to Tsume's amusement. So I am guessing I am supposed to be a key. I am male, right? Right in one smarty pants. Seriously though, keep those pants on. I don't want to see that, she said, laughing internally at the little boy checking out his key. Anyway, when you do the act of mating, or sex, you eventually get a baby in the girl's belly. That is a lot to take in, Naruto said. I should have wrote it down. Don't worry about it, if you get the gist of it. You are fine, she laughed. So, any questions? Yeah, that still does not explain what I saw, Naruto said. Oh shit. Yeah, I totally forgot about that, she exclaimed, tightening her clothes a bit unconsciously. It was embarrassing to be caught like that. Remember what I said about those special places in the girl's body? The lock? Yeah, the lock. Well, a key is supposed to fit into it and that is supposed to make the girl feel good, she explained, blushing a bit. Real good. But then why not just use a key? Naruto asked. He was puzzled why she was using her fingers, wouldn't that fit the lock better? Ha, yeah, that is true. I probably could have used something better. Hell, I should have used something better. Had I had more time I probably would have devised something that looked more like a pen. Oh right, you're only 6, she caught herself saying, I think you know enough already. Did I answer your question? I guess. But I still have a few more, Naruto admitted. He had tons more, like why was it bad if someone knew he saw her like this? There was more to this than what met the eye, and he had already got an eyeful. Tsume knew exactly what he was thinking, fire away, but not today. Come back another time and I'll tell ya some more. Naruto nodded. He got off the chair and stood up. I don't know how to get out of here.
True, this place is a jungle. How did you get past the giant bugs? She asked. Unless the Aburame ants weren't doing their jobs, honestly they are always too busy fucking each other, lousy roaches.
What is fucking? Forget you heard me say that, she answered, massaging her scalp at all the stress she had acquired. If possible forget today even happened. Shit, I really need to get hammered. Naruto wanted to know what that meant also but figured he should leave. Also, why has that dog I saw near the cliff stopped howling?
Tsume listened to the background and heard the sounds of different types of grunts. Kid, Kuromaru was howling for some vagina. He does this once a month, seems like he found some. If I were you I would try and stay out of his way when you were running down the forest back to town.
What'll he do if I disturb him? Naruto asked. He'll probably kill you, she shrugged. Naruto looked tense. I'm kidding. I wasn't going to let a 6-year-old walk through his place, anyway. Tsume grabbed the boy and Naruto felt himself get transported outside. Another few flashes and he found himself back into the town. What was that? He asked with excitement. Shunshin, a high-speed, long-distance time, space jutsu. You'll learn it at some point. It is a very useful jutsu, she commented. Before she left Naruto got a glimpse of the woman leaving, with the full moon out and her skin flushed, with her tight black clothing around her, she looked cool. Kiba's mom was awesome. That was something he could not deny. Kiba was lucky to have a mother like her. Hell, he was lucky to have a mom period. Before departing, she turned her head to him and winked. I'll see ya around, kid. Remember, tell anyone about what you saw and you're dead. With a flash she was gone and the small boy was left to watch at the afterglow. With this new knowledge in his mind, Uzumaki Naruto's life had changed in an odd way. Questions were already going through his head about the facts of life. He wanted to be Hokage so that people would pay attention to him, but as he saw today, there were adults who would do that without him being some kind of god among ninjas. He would certainly be going back to see her, that was for sure. He had to know more about this sex that interested adults so much. Suzume's sensei was at a loss for words when Uzumaki Naruto, the village pariah, asked her about sex. She wasn't having the best of days. The girls were already bullying Sakura and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. She would have to sit in a detention with Amy, the class female bully, later. Yet she would trade that for having to talk about such an awkward topic with someone who should never know what half of the words coming out of his mouth meant. Who in the world taught him the word, fuck, she wondered to herself. Look, I am glad you are taking an interest in your education, Naruto, but I must say this isn't a proper topic. It is not becoming of a bright young ninja such as you to get fascinated by these things at such an early age, she told him and fixed her glasses at him. She was in her early 30s and would most likely be doing this job for a while longer, if she didn't manage to find a husband soon, that is. How about we talk about something else, perhaps? No thanks, I would much rather talk about this. I can't seem to find any information about it and when I ask an adult they damn near tried to kill me. He shuddered, especially if I was near their daughters. She ran a hand through her wavy dark hair,
wondering how on earth she was stuck with this brat. She hoped that new instructor, Iruka, would have better luck with the boy than she was having. He was a polite child, but he asked too many strange questions for her liking. This was just a series of things he had been asking lately. She had thought it was bad when he asked how to fill out rental paychecks, but that had nothing on how to have sex.
She felt like a pedophile talking to him about this at all. Look, sensei, the only other people I could ask now is the girls, and I don't think Sakura and Ino would be any help, he answered, but if you won't help me, I guess I'll ask them. Wait. Don't ask Sakura or Ino, she said, trust me, you'll regret that. They don't particularly like you too much, Naruto. How about Amy then? He replied, looking puzzled, the two of us get along okay. She did not want to know how the most violent girl in her class got along with one of the nicest boys in the school. That wasn't relevant. What was relevant was that Naruto not try and spread his knowledge to his classmates. She didn't need their parents coming in, telling her that the Kyuubi was corrupting their precious babies. Naruto, must you make this so hard? I told you we shouldn't discuss this and this is final, she said in exasperation. Fine, if you will not tell me and I can't ask the girls, then I am going to ask this nice lady I saw near my apartment that might know something about sex, he answered, looking annoyed. I am sure she will help me out. Nice lady, Naruto. What does she look like? Lots of lipstick and not that much clothes, but she winked at me a few times and I saw men give her money for some reason. He shrugged. Okay, I'll go home now, bye sense. Alright. I do not need to hear anymore. What do you want to know? She said, looking panicked, her pale face getting even whiter. Just please don't mention this to anyone, it could get me in trouble. Well, if it could get you in trouble then I shouldn't ask, he admitted sadly. I wouldn't want to get you into trouble, sensei. Suzume sensei was genuinely touched. Despite how many times she scolded Naruto about improper questions, he still didn't want to get her into trouble. She felt somewhat bad about her earlier treatment of the lad. It took her a few weeks to understand that Uzumaki Naruto was not the demon, and that revelation fed some guilt into her. She had treated Naruto badly and she knew that he was hurt, yet he kept it bottled up. She adjusted her white petal kimono and tried to calm down. It would not do to show how guilty she felt around someone like Naruto. He seemed far too smart to just ignore the subtle change in her emotions. The brat was smart. Smart enough to know when people were ready to do something for him. Standing up, the female teacher bent down and slowly hugged him. Naruto stiffened at the contact, but after a little while hugged her back. Thank you, Naruto. I am glad you understand that. I could be in trouble if I told you things like this. Children are not supposed to know about sex, and if they find out I told you anything then I could get fired. But, if you asked a prostitute about sex, things could get even worse. Don't do it, please. I won't, sensei, Naruto said, hugging her back tightly. She whimpered a bit at his grip. It seemed too desperate and primal, like he was latching onto something and would not let go. She knew he probably never got many hugs, aside from the Hokage. She could not recall many people doing this for him. A small secret among the female mothers of Konoha was that Uzumaki Naruto was the most adorable child they had ever met. Not even one would ever admit it, but it was the truth. Everything about him screamed, pinch me please, hug me, love me, so much attention he needed, so much he desired. Yet he would never get it. She knew that, even if he grew up, he probably would never find someone who would accept him. This generation was already doomed to hate the vessel. Up until last week, she herself did not care too much the child either, but if anyone got to truly know Naruto, they would never let him go. The boy was just that kind of person. She let him loose and patted him gently on the head, taking some time to feel the soft blonde hair. Naruto, when you are ready to learn about sex, come and talk to me, or ask Iruka. He is going to be in charge next year. I don't like Iruka, he is boring, Naruto grumbled, and he is always yelling at me. Iruka has a few issues to work out, she said tactically, family issues. Naruto was about to say something when he heard a knock at the door. Within a few moments Iruka was already inside. He looked at the scene in front of him and asked, scowling, did I come at a bad time? He eyed Naruto suspiciously. The blonde backed away and got his bag. I was just leaving, thanks again, sensei, said the little boy, before running out of the door. Iruka watched the little boy run away and turned back to face his supervisor. Anything you want to tell me? He asked. No, he just had a strange question he wanted to answer. Poor boy, she answered him. Then after a minute she smiled. Reminds me of another boy who used to walk these halls a few years ago. Iruka stiffened. I am nothing like him. You think so? She asked, ignoring him and paying attention to her clean nail polish-free fingers. From where I am standing, I see that history repeats itself. Save it, sensei, we are different. Let us just drop it. Speaking of which, Hitaki Kakashi came by with a report that is a bit disturbing. You might want to look at this, Iruka said, handing the folder to his supervisor. Personally I don't believe it, but it is my job to give it to you. After he left, Suzume looked at the report. Finishing it, she put it down and massaged her temples. 6 years old and you have been living by yourself for the last year, no parent or guardian? She smiled sadly at the report. It was absurd and sounded like some kind of horrible fairy tale. Yet it indicated that this child lived by himself, did everything by himself, and even taught himself. How this was possible, she had no idea, but the fact of the matter was that the report was not lying. And I didn't even notice, did I? Naruto, there is a lot about you, isn't there? Tsume thrashed in ecstasy as she pushed the cucumber further and further into her snatch. It was cold, making it even more sensitive to her than it was supposed to be. It was hard and it hit all the spots she needed. Her wild hair flung about in all directions and the sweat on her body was all over the sheets. She wouldn't hold back her screams this time and her toes curled up at all the heightened pleasure she was feeling. Her free hand, the one that was not shoving the vegetable into her flour, was roughly rubbing her breasts. She even grabbed one and shoved it into her mouth, biting it softly on the brown nipple with her fangs. Her eyes were becoming more and more unfocused and feral in the dark and she couldn't help but moan out loud all the nasty things she had to say. Yes, yes. Oh God, yes. Make me cum. Hit me baby, one more time. I am a bitch. I am a slut. God, I am so fucking lonely and nasty. Her wild tattoo marks around her cheeks were becoming a darker shade of red, as was her tanned olive body. There was a large wet spot on the bed, where her nice firm bum was pressed. She spread her legs and shoved the tool deeper into herself, enjoying its depth and all the fluids she was spraying from her vagina. She hit spots that she couldn't with her fingers and didn't stop there. She went on all fours and threw her plump buttocks into the air and pushed the vegetable in from behind. She thrashed about, yelling at the top of her lungs about how good it felt. Her lonely desires were satiated. She knew this was wrong, but it felt so right. She knew this wasn't healthy, but it was safer than the alternative. She didn't want to be anyone's bitch. If she was going to be controlled, then it was she that was going to do the controlling. Still, like with many older females, the face of the Yondaime appeared in her imagination. She could see Minato-san thrashing behind her in tune. She was his Kushina, and she was going to let him ride her all night long. Her barks and growls echoed through the walls and she panted desperately for release. So focused was she in her hormone-induced state, that she did not even notice that a blonde-haired boy was standing right next to her bed watching everything with the focus of a Sharingan user. That is until the boy made his move. Should I come back later? Naruto asked, embarrassed that he was pulled into this scene in front of him once again. I tried knocking, but... Tsume shifted her sweaty head and her eyes widened, her vagina tightened even more around the cucumber. Holy shit, kid. What the fuck, can't you use a godforsaken door? Like last time, she was still thrusting deeper and harder into herself. Like last time, she couldn't stop until she got to that ever-closing peak. As she was reaching her climax, the face of Minato and the face of little Naruto-kun started to merge and she felt herself getting even tighter. She was more than just aroused now. Something about Naruto mixed into her thoughts and melded with her imagination of Minato, and instead of seeing his face thrusting from behind her, she saw Naruto. Not pale and tall Namikaze Minato, but a shorter, more tanned Uzumaki Naruto. With her soft and large 34-year-old bum in the air, the image of a more mature Uzumaki treating her like the dog she secretly wanted to be, and the real orphan Naruto beside her, was all becoming too much for the mother. Her last thoughts before passing out, both disturbed and excited her. I am getting off being peeped on by some blonde toddler and it is turning me on in ways Viagra has never before. Jerking off has never been this intense before. My God. What is up with this creepy kid? Were her thoughts, right before her peak hit her without warning. Tsume's climax hit her like it never hit her before. The sheer perversion drove the sensation into heights she didn't think possible. She had to hold onto something while the hormones surged through her body like a hydraulic pump. Her feral sex-crazed self latched onto the whimpering Naruto, who was too slow to get away, and she hugged him tight as she came like never before. It was as if someone detonated a nuclear bomb in her chakra-induced vagina and she almost crushed the little boy into a pulp as she hugged the blonde plushie into her mother-sized breasts, while pushing out enough fluids to drown the mattress. Before darkness took her, Naruto barely heard the whisper that escaped out of her mouth. Son of a bitch. Somebody neuter me. I think I am becoming a fucking pedophile, and I like it. The blonde boy felt another splash of water hit the back of his head, the warm, foamy feel sending a small shiver through his tiny body. He hissed and bit his lip as a small portion of the liquid dripped into his eye, making it sting. His delicate hand came up to his pink face and rubbed at his eye socket, trying to get the foam out. Sorry about that, a voice called out behind him. I should have used baby shampoo, it would have taken out the burn. I always use that stuff on Kiba, don't know why I forgot to put some on today, but then again I haven't bathed with Kiba in years. The kid thinks he is too old to be taking baths with his mommy. Naruto nodded, relaxing as Tsume's rough fingers went through his tangled hair. Her hands were opening up the pores on his scalp, letting much of the tension in his head leave him. Despite this, he was somewhat uncomfortable because he didn't wear anything in this bathing area, only a small towel that covered his crotch. The blonde wasn't sure why he did that, though. He concluded that a part of him didn't want to let Tsume have a look at his special place. No one had ever seen that part of Naruto before. "Are we embarrassed, little Naruto-kun?" Tsume teased, going into baby language as she began washing his reddening back, noticing how thin he looked. It didn't look like the boy had been eating much if his ribs were an indication of his general health. She decided to tickle them to get a reaction out of him, earning some small giggles from the blonde. "Ha! I knew you weren't mute. You have been pretty darn quiet since we got in the tub. Was it something I said, hum?" She smirked when the blonde kept laughing, giggling for her to stop tickling me. She missed spending times like this with Kiba, or Hana. They were such adorable children, especially the little dog brat. He would never let her go and would always try and hog as much time with her as possible, getting Hana jealous over how much attention she paid her only son. Perhaps that was the reason there was such a deep chasm between their relationship? Years ago, little Hana needed the attention of her parents, yet only Kiba got it. As a result, her personality shifted into something that was not natural of an Inuzuka. The clan was known for their rashness, boldness and stubbornness, yet Hana didn't have any of those traits. She was silent, introversive, and calm, the exact opposite of her mother. Was Hana ashamed of her? Was she such a failure as a parent that her eldest held her in contempt, hardly ever coming home and only talking to her via her brother? How was she supposed to know that Hana wanted to talk to her, wanted to spend time with her as well? Talk about their father, talk about her father in particular. What could she say about him? "He left us, get over it. Life is hard, you either suck it up and face all of it, or let life stomp you on the ground." That answer wasn't good enough for the intellectual girl, and the more she questioned her mother as she grew older, the harsher her mother's answers became. Eventually Tsume woke up one day and found her gone, her things packed and all of her equipment missing. The only thing she left behind was a letter stating, "Life sucks, deal with it." Tsume felt a trickle of water hit her sharp nose and she looked down at her charge, who was glaring up to her with his pink face. The mother looked down at herself, noticing her balloon-shaped nude breasts dangle close the boy's back. A part of her knew she should at least cover herself with a towel. On the flip side, what was the point? They were in the bathing room. He had seen it all, anyway, and probably a bit more. What did she really have to hide from him? Nevertheless, judging by how red the boy's tanned skin started blushing when his blue eyes caught sight of a nipple, she started to wonder if this was even such a good idea. Perhaps he still felt somewhat embarrassed about this whole event. "Didn't you hear me? My eyes burn. Please get some more water. Ouch, ouch." The brown-haired woman smiled and swung another bucket of warm water down at her charge. Naruto lifted his soft hands and rubbed his wet blonde hair, trying to get all the shampoo out. Tsume wanted to just snatch up the little boy and hug her close. He was just so adorable. She remembered a little girl who she would regularly grab in the bathing house, who had almost the exact same expression when the lass were dunked in water. Though, little Kushina would always chase her around the pools when she did that, and often tripped on something, leading to both of them getting injured and spending the day in the hospital. Yet, despite getting yelled at by her mother and sensei, it was still worth it to see the surprised look on the tanned redhead's face. She leaned in closer to pull the little boy close to her and made him sit on her uncovered lap while she sat on a stool. "Here, let me clean up the rest for ya. You're doing it wrong and only leaving residue on her head." No, you don't have to do that. I can take care of it," Naruto stuttered. He wanted to get away from Kiba's mother. He could feel her large olive breasts sitting on both ends of his shoulders. To a boy who almost never felt the skin of another human, this was so humiliating. "I am almost done anyway." "No you aren't, kiddo." Tsume smiled, resting her head on the top of his head, pushing her large, jiggling breasts on his shoulder. "You still have a good deal of my scent on ya. I have to get all of it out." "Scent? I didn't smell anything when you told me to get in the tub?" Naruto questioned, trying to think of what he knew about how smell worked, and how is the smell sticking to me? "Smells don't stick. Glue sticks." Kiba's mother shook her head. "Naruto-kun, smells always clings to stuff. Especially my odor. You just don't sense it because you haven't had any training. There are only a handful of people in the village who could smell me on you, but it only takes one to find out, and like hell I am taking that chance." She rubbed her hands up and down his small back, making him blush more and elicit another squeal when she pinched his prepubescent skin. "I am gonna get you all nice and clean. So you'll be here for a long time, well at least until Kiba and Hana get back. Though Hana will probably be back whenever she feels like it. I sent her off to that Shino kid's house and she hasn't come back since." Naruto noted the small sadness in her voice when she spoke about her daughter. His wet head turned to face the equally wet and foamy mother who was still scrubbing his back with her long fingers. Doesn't she live with you? I know Kiba talked about wrestling his sister Hana in school. He said he beat her all the time. Tsume barked. Kiba win against Hana. Ha, good one. I'll have to bring that up the next time he wants something. The brat really needs to stop telling lies that he can't possibly back up. Well, Hana is a girl, and the girls in my class are pretty weak, Naruto explained, murmuring as Tsume's hands got lower, maybe a bit too low. Tsume-san. I think you're touching my.
Oh crap, sorry kid. I wasn't paying attention, Tsume said, pulling her hand away from the boy's bum. She really didn't know why she was washing that low. Seemed like old habits die hard. Kiba never cleaned there. I don't think he cleans his butt now either, only difference is, back then it didn't smell so bad. The Inuzuka aren't supposed to smell as bad as their dogs, but Kiba, well, let's just say he is an exception. Naruto laughed. He is pretty strange. I saw him bark at a squirrel once. The weird part is that squirrel growled back and it was Kiba who was chased up a tree.
Where exactly was this? Tsume asked, thinking about some of the foolish things her son had gotten into over the years. By any chance was it near that giant building with some large forest in the background, with long metal bars encasing it? Naruto's eyes lit up, recalling the memory. Oh, it had some large sign called Forest Death. Wait, that wasn't right, it was Forest of Death, or something like that. Kid, I wouldn't mess with anything that lives in that place, she smirked, thinking about what to tease her son with. If you can live there, you are bound to be hardcore. There are some pretty nasty things lurking in the shadows. Naruto nodded, catching a glimpse of Tsume's erect nipple in the corner of his eye. He didn't want to turn around and see her. It felt wrong taking peeks at Kiba's mother like that, especially after she had been so nice to him. The blonde had never been pampered like this before. He couldn't recall any point in his life where someone bathed him. Not even his caretakers ever took the time to put soap on his body, wipe off the suds and make sure he was completely rinsed. Instead, they gave him a bar of soap and a bucket and told him to get clean before they sent him out to do chores. He had seen the matrons bath the other children, wash them until they were happy and giggling, tickled them and make them laugh. For Naruto, that was never the case, and he wanted that. He wanted to play with the matrons. At some point, he developed a sort of envy for others and even harbored resentment when he saw mothers walking with their small children. Why couldn't that be him? Why couldn't they also pay such close attention to him? It was a small hope, but it created a twisted complex that ended with him blocking out a large part of the human need. A need for a motherly figure, a wish to be hugged and cared for, and for someone to kiss his troubles away. When he saw Sasuke's sweet mother bend down and kiss the boy on the forehead before directing him to get to class, Naruto's jealousy instantly formed into the surface of his consciousness, and he felt a deep resentment for Sasuke that he never knew existed. Every day since coming to the academy, he would watch the young Uchiha hug his long black-haired mother and try run off into the academy, but before he could, the beautiful woman would gently tell him she loved him and laugh at his embarrassment. When the kid said, "Stop it, Mom, you are embarrassing me," he felt a stab of longing within himself. What did Sasuke have to feel shame for? Didn't he know he had someone who loved him unconditionally? A person whose life revolved around him, for his good and for his safety. Why did the boy run away from her, not wanting to be viewed as weak in front of his classmates when the only thing the other woman was offering was her love? To an orphan who never had anyone to start with, it boggled his mind. His thoughts, however, were interrupted again when he found himself get picked up and thrown into a tub of cold water, making him struggle to stay afloat, so as not to drown. Cough, why did you do that? He questioned his assailant. You were doing that thing where you just look at nothing and space out, Tsume grinned, putting her hands on her wide chocolate-colored hips. Naruto got a better view of all of Tsume, a very wet and very womanly Tsume. Naruto didn't know that the hair near her PP was spiked. Apparently he wasn't paying as much attention the first time. Tsume's gaze now fell to where Naruto was looking at. Geez, you're a curious one, aren't ya? Still haven't seen enough. The blonde ducked into the water trying to hide his embarrassment. What a mess he had gotten into. He hoped Kiba's mother wouldn't punch him. Sometimes he would go to the onsen and see a giant man near a large toad look half dead, with ribs and broken bones showing through his flesh. Apparently, that occurred because of peeking, which meant looking at girls naked. Relax, I am not gonna hit ya, she said, smiling, thinking how cute and innocent the brat was. Even more so than her son, who she suspected would probably grow up to be a huge pervert like his dear old good-for-nothing father. You don't have to hide, look all y'all want. I am not gonna bite, much, she grinned, showing her enlarged white canines. The boy's head immediately popped out from the tub of water and he coughed up some water. He looked up at her with his wet blue eyes and said, "She wearing, see cold, very cold." Bending down to pick up the boy, She wrapped her slender arms around the brat and slid him close to her, like he was a newborn baby. Naruto rested his pink, blushing face on her chest and tried not to notice how erect and hard her dark brown nipples had become. Tsume smiled and patted his head onto her chest, ushering for him to relax as she carried him outside the bathing room. Naruto's eyes were firmly fixed on her chest as she walked up the stairs, past Kiba and Hana's room, and into her larger master bedroom. Her narrow bestial eyes looked down at the blonde, whose hair reminded her so much of the fourth. Now there was a man. Hey kid, don't fall asleep. Naruto's droopy eyes shot up, realizing that he was staring too hard and was already getting tired. He didn't realize why being held like a baby was making him feel this way. It was a new experience and he wasn't used to this. His arms were already wrapped around Tsume's neck tightly and she had to soften her fierce expression, thinking how the hug felt so awkward. Human contact must not have been something the boy was used to, if he reacted this way to just being carried, which said a lot about his life considering he was only 6. As she closed the door to her room with one hand, she tossed the naked child on the bed with the other, who immediately got some sheets and covered himself. Smart boy, did not want her to see his, even if he saw hers. Your clothes will need to be left here, but I can lend you some of Kiba's stuff, she said. I already washed them in the machine and removed any smells, so if you don't mind wearing them you can keep them. They're too small for Kiba, anyway. Naruto scowled, thinking how much smaller he was than her son, despite being the same age. Thanks, I guess, he mumbled. The woman went to the closet and got out the clothes and tossed them to Naruto, who promptly started putting them on underneath the sheets. The mother, already being stark naked, only skimmed over her drawers, looking for something she could wear. Damn it, Hana took all my panties, again. Naruto's head popped up from the sheets looking annoyed. Can you not yell? It's hard to change. The mother just raised her thick eyebrows, thinking how stupid that statement just sounded. She just gave him a soapy bath and even carried the little brat buck naked up the stairs, and here he was complaining about privacy. The orphan really needed to get his priorities straight. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't want to make you feel uncomfortable changing underneath my bedsheets after we just had a bath together, she quipped. The orphan frowned after finally getting his clothes on and dropped out of the sheets, falling onto the floor. He looked up at the much taller woman, who was still clothed less and wet, with her hair less spiky that gave a soft aroma. He turned away at the sight, but then remembered that the woman didn't mind him watching. As a result, the Uzumaki didn't miss a single second watching her get dressed. She selected some black underwear that hugged her large bum as she put them on slowly, pinching it up so that they fit, causing her to slightly hop, making her round bum bounce. She turned around to see Naruto stare, her large breasts jiggling in his view. He didn't notice them bounce so much in the tub as he was too focused on his own nudity, but seeing the 34-year-old like this with only some black underpants, which were almost see-through, became very intriguing to him. Morals were certainly never a strong point for Uzumaki Naruto, especially when no one ever taught him any. If he could get away with it, he would do it. That was something he learned early in life and he stood by that rule to this very second. Tsume shook her head at the attention the blonde was giving her, feeling slightly hot as his blue eyes watched her breasts bounce up and down, while she searched her drawers for a bra. She didn't think Hana stole those. There was no way her little girl could be a size D, if even size B, though she suspected the girl would try to probably stuff some paper into her bras to give her a bit more confidence. Teenage girls at that age craved attention, but she hoped her little girl was smarter than that. Where the hell is that bra? She asked the heir, getting irritated. Bra? Naruto wondered aloud and asked, what is that? Can you tell me what it looks like? Kiba's mom turned to look at him, smiling at his helpfulness and noting that he was looking up at her eyes. Apparently the olive bouncing duo had lost its novelty. You never seen one before? She asked with amusement. I think I did, but I am not sure, Naruto said, still looking at her slitted, black irises. It was rude to not look people in the face when talking to them. He learned that from the Chunin Namida Suzume sensei. Especially when it came to women, which was something she drilled into his head on those days he had remedial classes. The dark-haired beauty would not tell him much in the ways of human reproduction, but she did impart some knowledge on how to talk to the female species, something most boys did not do very well. What use this knowledge would be, Naruto was not sure, but he was only 6, so perhaps he would use it later on in the future. He wanted to have a family after all, and to have one he needed a girl, right? Surely being able to be polite to females would someday pay off when he had to find a wife. Would you cut that out? Tsume snarled playfully, poking Naruto in the head, making the boy tip over to the ground. Stop gazing into space thinking about stuff. Live in the present. Live right now. You're too young to be reminiscing. You haven't lived a life long enough to wallow in your delusions or self-pity. Then she saw that she had her chest pressed on Naruto's mouth while she was bending down to talk to him, and watched him try to push her away from his nose so that he could breathe. Funny, most men would have loved this. Oh, sorry about that. Maybe I should be the one doing some thinking,
There was just something about watching the scared little blonde trying to flee contact with her breasts, so she didn't relent and continued to press her large, olive mounds onto his mouth. It was not as if she had never breastfed a child before. Hell, the only reason she even did this was because she didn't suspect little Naruto-kun to suddenly open his mouth and start suckling. That would be just weird. Someone should have told her to expect the unexpected from the tricky child, because that is exactly what happened. Uzumaki Naruto, in an attempt to get away from the two large boobs that made it hard for him to intake oxygen, opened his mouth and bit down on her larger-than-average, erect nipples.
Son of B.O., Tsume moaned as Naruto started chewing on her left tit, hoping that Kiba's mom would relent and let him go. Oh, no, don't do. Cut that out. Oh, wow. The blonde kept moving his tiny lips, even finding himself suckling on the nipples when he started feeling the pressure of Tsume's chest going down, causing the feral woman to relax and close her eyes. This was it. He figured he would just have to keep chewing a bit longer and the woman would be in so much tickling pain that she would never push him into her large chest again. It was so hard to breathe when she did that. The dog woman was caught completely off guard when the child's suckling became much wetter and noticed that he was trying to make her feel more sensitive with his sloppiness. Uzumaki was a devilish one, he was, and seemed to have learned something from the tub. She was still wet and foamy from the shower and, as a result, even more hypersensitive than usual, not to mention already horny from the night's encounters. Without reason, she found her arms wrapping around the blonde suckling at her nipple, and rubbed him gently close to her. Naruto stiffened at this. He wasn't used to people repeatedly hug him, yet he found himself unable to stop what he was doing. The orphan knew that babies drank breast milk and even saw some of the wet nurses in the orphanage do this before, but never in his life did he expect to be doing this at the age of 6. This wasn't his intention. He initially wanted to make her stop pushing her breasts in his face. He heard the wet nurses complain sometimes that it was often painful to breastfeed when the kids were teething, so breastfeeding must have been an unpleasant ideal. The boy had no way of knowing that it was actually the opposite, that sometimes teeth gave a more enjoyable experience, especially if done after taking a warm shower. Looking at Tsume's reddening face and her long bubblegum pink tongue darting out of her mouth like some kind of canines, Naruto thought that maybe this wasn't such a bad idea. Thinking about it, this was something he wanted to do all along for a long time. This was the reason he had been focusing on her breasts so much. He wanted to wrap his small mouth around the brown areolas and drink some milk. It was not fair that other children got to have milk from their mothers, while he was stuck drinking out of a plastic bottle. He didn't mean for this to happen, but now that it was, a large Oedipus complex that had been slowly building for years in the mind of Uzumaki Naruto was starting to come to shape. As he suckled, he saw the expression of pleasure on Kiba's mother when he sucked harder, desperate for some milk that didn't seem to be coming. He watched her sweat mix in with the already foamy water mocha-colored skin. He felt her light brown hands traveling on his head, pushing him to continue as her mouth opened wide, revealing rows and rows of sharp feral teeth and sticky drool dribbling out from the sides. Kiba's mom really was something fierce. Her white rows of canine teeth made him afraid, especially when she started to growl. Oh, little Naruto. Oh, we should stop. Oh, no, not there. Oh. Naruto didn't think that she really meant it, since her hands kept his head firmly pressed to her bosom. Tsume's mind had been telling her that this was wrong from the moment his lips wrapped around her nipple, but she had allowed things to go this far anyway, and it seemed like the boy was enjoying it, judging by the hungry expression on his face. Did he really think she had mother's milk? No way, however, for someone who twitched every time they were hugged, maybe, just maybe he was. Naruto-kun, stop, there isn't any milk in there, she said, trying to talk softly despite the high amount of estrogen traveling through her body, nearly triggering an erotic climax. The only reason she was able to communicate her thoughts without climaxing was the awkward topic of what the boy was trying to get. Naruto ignored her and continued to suckle, even more furiously than before, hoping something would come out. Didn't you hear me? I said there wasn't any milk, she practically pleaded. Slowly the boy's head stopped moving and his mouth was suckling softer and softer, his expression going from hungry to bitter, looking at her with resentment. There is nothing in here, he muttered bitterly. Tsume put the boy down on the bed. I haven't been pregnant since Kiba and I have some milk, but I'll need a medical jutsu to force it out. Takes a while to get it started, though, she explained. The bed slowly creaked as Naruto hopped off, his face downcast. He just realized what he had tried to do, what he had tried to pull on Kiba's mother. Revulsion started to creep up on him. He thought he was over this, that he left those delusions behind. He knew a long time ago that he would never be getting a mother, so he never questioned anyone about it. Why now? Why after all these years were these feelings coming to the surface? Why? Naruto, Tsume said, falling down on her knees to meet the child's beautiful eyes at eye level. Look at me. Ocean blue eyes, so similar to her friends, looked back at her and she grinned. It isn't your fault, kiddo, I am an adult and I let things get too far, she said gently. Blue eyes closed, turning away from her, only for her to grasp his head and make him meet her own black slits. Don't turn away, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Actually, let me take that back, this is pretty damn embarrassing. This didn't seem to make Naruto feel any better, though. What I am trying to say is that you never had a mom, did you? Naruto shook his head. And you didn't see anyone as a mother, did you? Naruto repeated the action, his pupils starting to slightly water, glazing over. Only for Tsume to pinch him, making him yelp. Don't cry, people always get emotional on this village. Kami. I can't walk down the street without someone looking down and having a sappy flashback that no one else can see. What a load of bullshit. The orphan tilted his head, wondering about the outburst for a moment, finally deciding to apologize, not wanting to further anger the feral woman. Sorry. Don't apologize, Kiba's mother replied, smiling, showing off her clean, sharp teeth, while forcing her bestial face to lean close to his own. Shit happens. Grow up and move on. If I spent half my time thinking about what happened instead of what could be, they'd probably have to take Kiba to the orphanage because his mama was too busy thinking about her good-for-nothing son of a bitch husband, instead taking care of her kids, grr. The blonde wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he just kept silent, not wanting to think about what he had just done. He was sure this would be the last time he would ever see her again. She had seen a side of him that even he wasn't aware of. A part of him that was created by isolation and fueled by loneliness and envy. The mother saw the expression on the boy's face. She read exactly what he was thinking. Listen, if you need to talk to someone. Naruto's eyes looked at her hopefully, his fists closing and drawing near his body. You could talk to me, she finished, her brown breasts dangling close to his face as her eyes stared down at his blue orbs. I am not much of a listener. But I did raise 2 kids, you know. Nodding his head, Naruto let some of the emotions that were building inside him go and tackled the mother in a fierce hug, around her near-naked waist. Tsume idly noted that now his head was really close to her black underpants, but didn't care, and just patted him on the head as the boy shivered from trying to stop himself from crying. Thank you, oh. She sighed, thinking he would probably have to get another shower before he left, to wipe off some more of her erotic scent. Fuck. I can't even take care of my own kid and I am worrying about someone else's. In 24 hours there would be a very special occasion in Naruto's life, the orphan couldn't wait. His excitement must have shown on his face because the people who regularly sneered at him, had a particularly ugly expressions this evening. What is the Gaki smiling about? Did you see those yellow teeth? Someone gets him a toothbrush and he's so happy, huh? He ignored the fat drunk who said that, his attention focused on trying to get home. After getting another shower from the motherly matriarch, he had been transported once again back to the town region. Until he saw the flags of the Kyubi festival near the Hokage Tower, he didn't realize how close it was to the October festival. It marked the date when the Yondaime defeated the evil nine-tailed beast, thus saving Konoha. It was also his birthday and the moment when he would turn 7 this year. The day before there had been another celebration, but that had something to do with Hidden Cloud, or at least that is what everyone else said. He always found himself in every festival Konoha held, looking for people to play with and overhear adults talking about what the event was associated with. Apparently, the war with Cloud was over and they were already creating peace negotiations. The whole incident would end soon and there would be truce between the 2 nations. The child got to see the Cloud Ninja riding on the large float, waving to everyone in the village. That man was the ambassador sent from the Raikage to oversee the truce on Lightning Nation's behalf. The blonde didn't like the look of him. It might have been his creepy pointy beard or his narrow eyes, but there was a feeling of wrongness about him that made him want to throw something at the ninja. Especially when the man's visible eye fell down at his form, sneering at the poorly dressed orphan who watched him from the ground. He wondered if anyone else caught that. Maybe they did, perhaps they even encouraged it. In any case, he didn't like that man. Naruto didn't think he was evil, he just felt something negative about him. Naruto's intuition was telling him to be wary of the negotiator from Cloud. That is why when he saw the Cloud Ninja jumping from roof to roof towards the forest region, Naruto knew something was going down. Seeing this strange behavior, he stopped to consider his actions. Should I follow him? It'll probably be dangerous. So far going into the forests of Konoha resulted in him coming close death. It might actually be a good idea if he avoided the area altogether, but that look, the look in the eyes of that sneering nin. It just told Naruto that he was up to no good, and even if Naruto wasn't a do-gooder, or a fantastic superhero, he was still a citizen of this village, and a damned proud one. Here goes nothing. Hope I don't regret this later. The fox boy was barely able to keep up with the sneaky nin. The only compensation was that the Cloud Ninja was deliberately trying to be careful, sacrificing speed for silence. Naruto had no such worries and followed the man from the ground. The Uzumaki was used to running. He was sure he knew how to sprint before he could walk. He had to be fast when there always were bullies, and occasionally, mobs of people, running after him. Although the mobs never harmed him, they still found it fun to give him a scare, but the children that caught him would give him a good thrashing that he would never forget. His small feet could turn to twin blurs when he needed to escape, and he found that, even when he was out of breath, he could still keep moving, going beyond anything the people chasing him would believe. It was like there was some tremendous power inside of him that acted as an engine to keep him moving despite how much pain he was in. Luckily, he was familiar with the forest region, so he didn't have a hard time keeping up with the Cloud Nin, who almost stumbled when a giant centipede tried to take a bite out of him. "Fucking slug. Take that," he cursed, pulling out a kunai and slicing the thing in half. The creature died instantly and the man kept moving, with a small boy behind him. Seeing how easily the enormous bug was defeated by the ninja, Naruto figured that the person was probably dangerous. What exactly was he doing here? He had no business sneaking around in the forest, taking the darker, more subtle ways into what looked like the Hyuga compound. Naruto had studied this place in history class. Suzume's sensei expected nothing but the best from him after he learned to read and often made him read out to the class to improve his blossoming vocabulary. He was doing all he could to make the wavy-haired teacher proud of him. She was one of the few people who believed he was something more than just a kid with no past. She saw him as an independent, hard-working student who wanted to succeed, despite how far behind he was to the rest of the class. Her remedial classes were not fun. She was very strict and, when he shouted, she would become very angry, but despite all of that, she still taught him what he needed to know. What Naruto was unaware of was that she was teaching him more than he needed to learn. The glasses-wearing Kunoichi still couldn't forgive herself for treating Naruto like an animal when she first met him. After watching him play in the sandbox by himself, watching everyone play tag or another game, she noticed the look of longing on his small face. The look was amplified by his smaller size and spiky blonde hair that were just waiting to be pulled. Seeing this event occur repeatedly through the last few weeks, she started to question if what she was doing was right. When Naruto had a question to ask, she would never answer, and when he needed help, she would never give it. Yet, despite all this, he never showed that he was angry, he didn't complain, and he just silently looked down and kept himself busy. It was only when she saw Iruka treating the boy the same way she did she have a revelation that what she was doing was twisted. It was both demented and cruel. As she heard the words, "Go play by yourself, Naruto, you are making a scene," from Amino Iruka, she felt anger at him for treating the boy so unfairly. It was then that she realized just who said those words first. This changed her perception of the boy, creating feelings of both guilt and self-loathing that caused her to work on Naruto's education more than anyone else in the class, without her even being aware of what she was doing, making the boy smarter and more tactful than he was before. When Naruto finally got to the large Japanese temple-style house, he saw the evil man, to him, coming out from the roof. He was carrying a bundle over his shoulder and had a wool mask around his face. His large body got closer to the bush where the blonde-haired person was hiding under. "Looks like I found a thief," Naruto whispered to himself. "Should I yell for help?" Before Naruto got a chance to think about it, however, he found a blur appear before him and pin him up against a tree. As the moonlight hit the face of the person who just did that, Naruto could see the clothed face of the Cloud Nin looking back at himself. "I was wondering who was following me." He could hear the sneer in his voice. "The little orphan in rags, eh?" Naruto struggled under his grip, feeling the rough hands become tighter around his neck. The man stood up straight, holding the rolled blanket on one arm, while choking Naruto with the other. "You think I didn't sense you, brat? I noticed you follow me from the edge of the forest. Your chakra signature is like a bloody beacon, and didn't they teach you that Junin can feel large stores of power nearby, Blood was rushing to his head, making it hard to talk, but Naruto answered with a sneer in his voice. "Edge of the forest. I was following you across town for the last 20 minutes. You must be one lousy Junin. Guts, kid. You've got balls to say that to me when I can crush you like a grape." He emphasized this by squeezing harder on the boy's voice box, making Naruto flay his arms. "Oh, can't say anything?" "Gah," Naruto said, trying not to die and trying to force air into his lungs. "Gee, fuck you." You first," the man said, dropping the wrapped bundle and pushing a small amount of wind through his hand. Naruto watched in fascination as blades of blue chakra started to form, creating long slices of wind. Blade of wind. The Junin dug his wind elemental hand next to Naruto's face, only to stumble when the boy's flaying legs finally managed to kick his scrotum sack. "Oh, you stupid brat, I was going to finish you off quick," he said, breathing in to calm himself down, still gripping Naruto against the tree with his large fingers. Let's see how you do against poison. It is a shame that I have to get out of here fast, so I don't have enough time to play. A thick smell of pungent odor filled the air as the Junin dropped Naruto, letting the blonde breath in a thick amount of poisonous fumes that were coming from the inside of the mask. Naruto coughed as the poison instantly started destroying the cells in his throat, causing internal bleeding, seeping blood from his nostrils and ears. It hurts. What did you do to me? Poison mist jutsu, the nin said, pulling himself up to his full height, slinging the bundle over his shoulder, and watching the boy slowly squirm and bleed from his pores. But in a concentrated dosage, don't worry. You'll be dead within a few minutes. It is too bad that you were too busy playing the hero, could have alerted the Anbu or yelled, but you had to make this easy for me, didn't you? Naruto's eyes were focused elsewhere as his vision started to fade. To the man's surprise, he only gave a weak grin showing line-pointed teeth. Actually, I think I did my job just fine. Not even the Anbu come to the Hyuga compound, foolish young ninja, said a voice from the darkness. A hand reached out and grasped the Cloud Nin by the posterior part of the neck, causing the man to drop his bundle and try to get away, only to feel a pressure of chakra needles go down his spinal column, paralyzing him from the neck down, unless the mortal has a death wish. In the moonlight, as the poison gas started to break apart the internal cells in the boy's body and affect the nerves that were responsible for his vision, the orphan saw before him a man instantly killed with a flick of a hand. It wasn't even a fight, even less than the massacre it was. I want you dead, and it shall be done. The tall man walked out from the darkness and into the light of the full moon. He stood slightly shorter than the ambassador did while having paler skin and longer hair. He wore a rich, white gi, the likes of which Naruto knew he would never afford, and didn't seem to be wearing any sandals. Where is my daughter, little one? Uzumaki wasn't sure what he was talking about. He didn't see any girl nearby. All he saw was a large bundle. Not knowing what else to do, he pointed to it, as blood started to fall from his nostrils, making it difficult to talk. I don't know. All he brought out was that bundle. This one, you say? He said, ignoring the dying boy and unwrapping the sheet. Naruto watched in curiosity as it unrolled to reveal a small pale girl, even smaller than himself, with dark indigo hair. Clever of him to simply roll her up in her futon. I was not even aware of what was happening. Hinata, Naruto wheezed. He just realized that he might have prevented a kidnapping. Feeling his heart race, blue eyes traced the face of the taller man, who seemed to be related to her. Help me, sir. Do you think I would have done anything less? He said, his face not showing any change in expression. You have assisted me, young one. Let me carry you. Before the Hyuga's hand ever reached the boy's damaged form, the man felt something well up within the child. His eyes started to form into the shapes of the famous Hyuga blood limit and noticed red chakra fill up the blonde's system, creating antibodies to fight the poison. It was doing this at a remarkable pace, and from another corner of the child's body, he could see the strange volatile red light force the boy's heart to beat faster, causing the ventricles to squeeze in rapid speeds. This resulted in the antibodies to become absorbed into his bloodstream in a much quicker pace, bringing his vitals back to equilibrium sooner. Not only that, but the chakra was also causing the damaged cells to regenerate, and the mitochondria in each cell to create more ATP. This resulted in more energy being sent to all the other cells, which used the energy to generate more cells through mitosis, instantly healing the organs and making them stronger than before. It was like watching a miracle of modern medicine as all the cells gathered together to make tissue and the organs that were damaged start to repair themselves in the cellular level. Turning off the Byakugan, the man witnessed the surface of the boy's dark skin start to heal. The tall noble delicately pressed his fingers into the boy's nostrils to remove some of the blood clotting and noticed Naruto immediately start to breathe normally again. Amazing, he examined the boy's ears and saw that they had stopped bleeding as well. They did not even look damaged, not a scar, even in the eardrums that he was sure were punctured moments ago. Listening to the blonde's heart for any abnormalities, he found that he was back to homeostasis. So this is the power of the nine-tailed beast? He asked himself, watching the boy slowly open his fox-like blue eyes that moments ago looked dead. Or is this the result of your seal, Namikaze? Hiashi stood a small distance away from the boy as the child regained consciousness. What happened? Naruto yawned, feeling woozy. Did we get him? Hiashi didn't reply and simply stood up, carrying the sleeping Hinata as the little girl automatically wrapped her tiny arms around his neck, like the post-infant she was. If you are referring to myself defeating this adversary, then indeed. I apprehended the culprit. Oh, Naruto said, thinking about what he meant. That sounds great, sorry for coming near your home. I think I will go now. Indeed, I would recommend you do. Hiashi nodded, his emotionless face not showing how amusing he thought the situation was. Before I have to alert my clan that there is another intruder in our midst. Naruto jumped up at this, wiping the dust off his clothes. No need, please, I'm already going. Then perhaps you should leave, now. Hiashi turned around to look at the main house, seeing someone coming out of it from the distance. However, do not think I will forget your help, Mr. Uzumaki. A good deed does not go unrewarded. When the man turned around, he saw no one there, but spotted a trail of yellow flashes running away into the forest. How rude, it isn't often I give my compliments and the boy is not even here to listen to them. I should kill you for your insolence, child. However, I might owe you more than you are capable of imagining. His head turned towards a giant tree, its large branches spread out to cover the blue moon. Sitting in the shadows of its tree branch, a silver-haired Anbu captain had to agree to that statement, before swiftly taking out his orange book and pulling down his headband to cover his Sharingan eye. Waste of time following you in here. I guess you didn't need my help, huh, Naruto-kun? A crowd of parents gathered to watch the last spar of the Junior Ninja Academy. It was a large event where at least one of the parents would attend. Though for the most part it was often the mothers who showed up, bringing with them lunch and sweets for their child, never caring whether they won or lost. In the eyes of a mother, their children had no faults. They gave them unconditional love and a little bit of comfort so that their days were a bit brighter. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't have a mother or a father. He didn't have anyone. He waited by himself as it became his turn to have his match. He only hoped that out of all the draws that occurred he wouldn't be facing Uchiha Sasuke versus Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka called out, already seeing the small bundle of Uchiha make his way to the arena, while the crowd started to mumble. Naruto, come down here. Naruto started using Suzume's lessons in tactful retreat, and thinking what his odds were at beating the #1 fighter in his class, then started to mysteriously walk into the crowds. He wasn't a coward by nature, but he was still sore from last night's event and he didn't think he had the energy to deal with someone as strong as Sasuke. Naruto-kun, come here, said a familiar voice. Naruto turned around to see Suzume stand behind him, her arms folded in front of her chest. Her glasses and wavy hair blew in the breeze, her slim figure making her look more professional than she really was. There is no need to run. Just remember the katas, which is really all we are looking for. Sensei, I think I was doing the moves wrong when you taught it to us. I asked for help but you kept passing me by, Naruto admitted, remembering the memory and how angry it made him. We didn't really go over them after that, so how am I supposed to even display my skills when I don't even have any? Suzume felt dread thinking about that incident. She had tried her best to fix the problems she caused in his early education, but she had not fixed his taijutsu. This was going to be a problem. Surely you remember something? She almost pleaded. Naruto shook his head. I know the kicks, but I don't know what to do about the grapples. Isn't there something you can do? Something you can show me? Ignoring the yells from Iruka to get Naruto onto the arena, Suzume bent down to Naruto's eye level. She briefly registered that the orphan's eyesight quickly went to her chest, then to her eyes, and filed that thought away for another time. We'll get you someone to look over your taijutsu, Naruto, I promise, but right now you just have to do the best you can do. Sighing, the blonde decided this was the best he was going to get out of this raw deal and made his way slowly to the arena, where the Uchiha brat was getting impatient. Took you long enough. My mommy really wanted to see me fight. I am going to show her all of my techniques because Not paying attention to the rest of the monologue, Naruto got into a fighting stance, not sure how to deal with Sasuke. He was a spoiled, arrogant child who could back up his boasts. Despite how obsessed he was about his brother, and trying to overcome him, he still managed to improve as time went on, leaving much of his classmates in the dust. I am ready, let's go. We will now start the match, Iruka said in a strong amplified voice, standing in between the two fighters. He looked at Sasuke and then gave an annoyed look at Naruto, though the boy noticed that it was not as harsh as usual. Strange, was Iruka changing? No, it couldn't be. Iruka never liked him and he probably never would. Begin. Immediately, Naruto ran towards the black-haired boy, intending to spear him to the ground. Sasuke saw this coming a mile away and was already countering the destructive attack that would have given the blonde a tactical advantage. Seeing Sasuke's change in posture, the Uzumaki realized that Sasuke had seen through his trick and decided to change tactics, tripping to the ground, falling face flat onto the sandy arena. Oi, the Dobi can't even pass at running. See, Mom, that's the kid I was talking about, he is so funny. You should see his henge, it was the fattest, most ugly Hokage ever. Came a young voice from outside the arena. Kiba, quiet. I am trying to watch, said the familiar voice of Tsume, observing from the seats where Uchiha Makoto and Nara Yoshino sat, preparing a picnic for after the spars ended. This match hasn't even started. I think there is more to the brat than what meets the eye. Makoto, wearing a tight black dress and white pearls, turned to the Inuzuka mother, who wore a sundress for this special occasion, despite not wanting to. Tsume. You can't be serious. He doesn't look like he can even walk properly, the poor dear looks dead tired. I have to agree with that, said Yoshino, scowling and shaking her head. She started fingering one of her expensive silver hoop earrings. See how red his eyes are, he must have been up all night. What the hell has he been doing last night when the academy matches were today? Tsume released a nervous laugh. I am sure the kid has good reasons. She coughed, trying not to think how this may be partly her fault. Crap, it looks like Sasuke is going to finish the brat. Sasuke was already at Naruto's feet, watching him get up, and getting ready to put the boy out of his misery. He scowled at the blonde. Trust me, I don't want to end the match this early, but you can't even move. This match is over ga. He didn't get to finish his sentence as his opponent threw 2 handfuls of sand into his eyes. Oh no, I think this match is far from over. Naruto immediately followed up by grabbing a rock from the ground and dashing it towards the little Uchiha's head. It hit the boy square in the nose as he tried to get the sand out of his eyes, which promptly started seeping blood. Before Iruka could call foul, Naruto tackled the boy into the sand and started wrestling him in a mad frenzy of punches, kicks, and scratches. This was Naruto's turf. He may have been half a head shorter, weighed less than the Uchiha, and didn't have his flexibility, but when it came to a raw match of endurance, Naruto was your man. Give up. You can't beat me. Damn, you clawed my eye. Here, take this. Ouch, not had enough. Take that, and that. Grr, you cheater. You big cheater. Sasuke squealed, punching Naruto back as hard as he could. He was sure he hit the blonde's nose twice, but he kept on coming. You're going down, Uzumaki. Losers never win. I didn't cheat. If you weren't so busy hogging the teacher's time with, ouch, those extra taijutsu moves, I wouldn't have to do this. Damn it. Stay still, Naruto answered, punching Sasuke twice more on his bleeding nose. I am going to win, watch me. You, win? You're the dead last, Sasuke shouted, kicking Naruto off and standing up, wiping off the dirty blood from his nose. You aren't even close to beating me. Naruto got up, his knees feeling like water and his breath heaving. How do you figure? You don't look so good yourself, might want to turn off that faucet you call a nose. Some of the mothers giggled at this, while Makoto frowned, mumbling something about smart Alex. Sasuke better not take this too far, she said, turning to Yoshino who was wiping off a speck of dust from her black sundress. He always gets a bit emotional at times. Shut up, Naruto. I am going to end this match right now, Sasuke shouted, clone technique. The Nara matriarch rolled her brown eyes at the temperamental child. Shinobi were supposed to keep their cool. It looked like the orphan was doing a good job keeping the match at his pace, while the black-haired boy was falling deeper and deeper into the blonde's trap. Naruto's blue eyes widened, seeing the Uchiha produce an exact copy of himself. He turned to Iruka. Oi, is he allowed to do that? Clones have always been a popular tradition of taijutsu, Iruka said, thinking about the rules of the tournament. Clones along with henge and body switch are allowed if used with a specific taij. Really? Alright. Here we go, Naruto shouted, making the seal, henge. A heaving pile of smoke covered the boy, making it hard to see him through the thick black smoke. Sasuke and his clone walked around the all-consuming smoke cloud, wondering what Naruto was going to reveal. There was no way the Dobi could pull off something amazing with a henge. It took a lot of chakra to even keep it going for a short while and, depending on how complicated the thing you wanted to be, it could take more. To be able to do any type of real damage with the henge would require a tremendous amount of raw energy, which he doubted Naruto had, considering he could never make a single proper clone. Let's go inside, Sasuke directed his clone. The other Sasuke nodded, hopping into the smoke. We'll flush him out. From the crowd, Hiashi sat on the bench with little Hinata beside him. Watching the battle with his blood gift, he could see through the smoke and view what lay behind the ominous clouds. So this is the boy, Hiashi? With Hitaki Kakashi as witness to the kidnapping, the council was hard-pressed to keep this incident in the files, especially when the Anbu captain said he would testify that it was the Cloud Ambassador who initiated the kidnapping. The Hokage was not pleased that the Anbu captain could not keep this incident a secret. However, when asked, he would only reply, I am not lower than trash. You can take me off the court, but I am not just going to sit silently and abandon a ninja of the leaf. The fault lies solely on Cloud, and I bear witness to it all. I will even allow an interrogation so you can see my memories. If only Hiashi was the single witness, things could have been different. The incident could be kept under wraps and not a single person would have to know what happened until months later. As it were, The council had the unfortunate luck of having the White Fang's son as another witness, meaning that both alibis matched and that this wasn't just a false accusation by the head of Clan Hyuga, but instead a proven child kidnapping. Now with the head of the largest clan in Konoha, and the prime captain of the Anbu Assassination Corps, against the idea of a negotiation, the council would be arguing and debating about what to do for the next few months. By the time they were done, Hiashi would be in the clear, and they would probably have reached another agreement to send some other dead body in his stead, or perhaps use the corpse of a previously dead Hyuga, and implement plastic surgery to make it look like Hiashi. In either case, what would be the point in sending his dead body instead? Clearly, Cloud wanted an intact Byakugan, not the corpse of a powerless branch house member. But who knows? In a few months, they might decide that handing over the corpse of the twin is the best solution, but Hiashi highly doubted that such an idiotic conclusion would occur. Regardless, he had other issues to attend to, mainly witnessing the tournament with his niece, who had already won in her gender division, which didn't surprise the man, considering how it was a taijutsu tournament. He had to remember to bring the girl to a restaurant on the way back home as a reward. Perhaps he should bring Neji along as well. But first I want to see how you respond to Naruto's attack, Uchiha. From what Hiashi told him last night, there was more to the boy than just a large chakra reserves. Let us hope that my brother was not exaggerating your healing ability, Naruto. A high-pitched scream came from within the smoke. No one was sure if it was Sasuke or Naruto, but judging by the Uchiha matriarch standing up and looking worried, it was safe to say that it was probably Sasuke. Sasuke, what is wrong, dear? Stay back. Get back. Ah. The crowd could hear shuffling of footsteps and other sounds that didn't sound human. Don't kill me. No, mommy. Save me.
Makoto had to be restrained by the Inuzuka female so that she would not jump into the large, noxious smoke. Look, I am sure he is fine. You don't see Blindy doing anything, she said, pointing her thumb to Hiashi, who snorted, not giving an answer. For all you know, the kid of yours is just trapped in some genjutsu.
They aren't allowed to use illusion arts. This match should be cancelled if that were the case, Makoto said, glaring up at the taller woman whose ample chest seemed to be straining on the dress. It looked especially large when she folded her hands around her bosom. Well, if it is a part of the style, then I don't see why not, Makoto said. Don't be ridiculous, Shay. Naruto doesn't have the aptitude for genjutsu. The kid's chakra reserves are monstrous, said Yoshino, poking her son, who was already falling asleep at her feet. One of these days Shikamaru was going to go into a coma and never wake up. I would be shocked if he could even do the basic bunshin. You know how much control those take. Ah, the scream from within the smoke screen caused Iruka to make a seal and dispel the fumes. They were about to find out whatever exaggerated horror lay beyond the thick clouds. It couldn't have been that bad. Naruto didn't know any genjutsu or any dangerous ninjutsu. What could the boy possibly do to frighten the Uchiha heir like that? Sasuke lay back on the ground, curled up in a ball, looking up at his opponent with tearful eyes and a panicked expression. Sweat pooled down his face and his teeth were clattering at the thing that was before him. Help me, he whimpered. He held a bloody kunai in one of his hands and a dozen shuriken were stuck on the ground around him, indicating that he had tried to throw things at some point, but either missed or it just did not dispel the being in front of him. The crowd took a step back, bringing their children with them when they saw what Naruto had become. It was a popular fact that Uzumaki Naruto was the worst henge user in the academy. If you asked him to turn into something he would do it, but it would look so grotesque that it would be near impossible to use in infiltration missions. Who would have ever thought his ability to make deformed henge would ever come in handy? Naruto. What have you done? Suzume whispered as she saw the creature Naruto had hanged into. The Uchiha had every right to be afraid. Iruka and the other ninjas watching weren't sure what to make of this. What they saw before them was indeed possible, and given the boy's Junin-level chakra reserves, what he had created wouldn't be too difficult for someone like him. But the thought of an academy student creating something like this, it sent a shiver up Iruka's spine as he walked up to it. Keep it away from me, little Sasuke said as the creature's long spiny legs ran softly on his neck, causing the boy to scream, Sensei. Naruto, let him go, Iruka whispered, trying not to look too closely at the horrible attempt at an animal henge. Match is over, you both used ninjutsu, this match is a draw, now change back. The only jutsu Naruto knew how to perform was the henge, and he didn't even know how to do it without it resulting in a disaster. That's why it didn't come as a surprise to an experienced Junin like Hiashi when Uzumaki Naruto's attempt at creating a giant centipede from the forest of death resulted in something that resembled a creature that was even more revolting. It had the initial shape of the creepy crawly. Its long segmented body was about as wide as a dog and as long as a python, with hundreds of spiny black legs coming out from the side of the black, armored exoskeleton. What struck Iruka was the face of the thing and the smaller hairy gray legs underneath the armor. It looked like thousands of little spider legs all trying to grasp a part of Sasuke. The realism in which it moved told Iruka that Naruto must have seen some of these things in person, and that idea didn't sit well with him at all. What was the brat doing going into the most dangerous regions of Konoha? His suspicions of where Naruto's wanderings took him was confirmed further when he saw that the centipede's face had mandibles coming out from either side of its buzzing jaw. Mandibles similar to the praying roaches of Konoha, located in the Aburame forest district. It also had 8 black eyes that were clearly members of the giant wolf spiders used by the insect users as pest control so that insect population would not stagnate in Konoha forest. The 8 eyes looked down at the Chunin, all of them moving in sync. Naruto changed back now.
For a second Iruka thought that Naruto would disobey and start terrorizing the other kids. Yet, in an instant, another screen of smoke appeared. Instead of the terrible creature, before them stood a panting orphan who was covered in cuts and even had part of a shuriken embedded in his right arm. Oh, I think I need more practice, ouch. Messed up again, I was trying to make a giant bug, darn it, he got my arm, darn.
He looked ahead to see Sasuke hugging his mom. The sheltered boy was bawling, not daring to look back at him. Sorry about that. We'll talk about this later, Suzume-sensei said, cutting off Iruka, who looked like he wanted to ask where Naruto had been wandering to, or trespassing to. It is getting late, anyway, we have the October festival tonight, let's just dismiss the class right now. This was the last match of the day. Still gawking at the blonde and his ridiculous transformation, the crowd slowly gathered their loved ones and went home, though, some whispered and looked back the blonde, mumbling, only a demon could create something that atrocious, he never should have been allowed here into the academy. Naruto felt someone's hand on his head and looked up to see Tsume pat him. Around her neck he saw a necklace made from the giant canine fangs along with the expensive-looking dress. It suited her. Huh, so you did run into those things, thank God they didn't eat ya. She grinned, but noticed his mood. I know, it doesn't seem fair, does it? You should have won. He said you could use henge, after all. I even kept it up when Sasuke threw those shuriken at me, he said, pointing to the bloody throwing stars on the ground. I didn't dispel no matter how much it hurt. Naruto felt someone beside him and turned to see the same person he met yesterday. You again. What are you doing here? Hizashi's face did not change expression, but he kept his cold eyes on the boy. I do not believe we have ever met. What? We met yesterday when the guy was trying to kidnap Hinata-san, Naruto said, feeling upset that the man had forgotten him so easily. You told me to run. That would be my twin brother you saw yesterday, the man supplied, eyeing Tsume suspiciously and wondering why his ex-teammate was comforting the Kyuubi boy. I am told we share a startling resemblance.
Oh, Naruto said looking at Tsume for support. The woman wasn't very helpful because she just snickered, smiling at him with her pointed teeth. Okay.
That was a remarkable transformation, Uzumaki-san, the man continued, feeling annoyed that his niece was still hiding behind his leg and avoiding Naruto's sight. How did you manage to create such a large henge? I have never known anyone your age to replicate such a technique. I am not sure, Naruto said, scratching his head. I just started doing what Suzume-sensei always tells me to do. Just keep gathering as much chakra as possible into a particular point and then just let it out through my coils to form the image around my body. How much chakra do you think you gathered? The Hyuga asked curiously. All of your reserves. Naruto considered the question, getting a feel for how much he had left. Maybe a quarter. And you kept it going for that long, despite being severely injured and even stabbed by the Uchiha? Hiashi said, bending down to look the boy in the eye. Do you mean to tell me you could make another 3 such as that and maintain them, while being brutally cut down by your opponent? Yes, was the determined reply. Tsume coughed, cutting into his conversation. Well, friend of mine, it is great to see you taking such a keen interest in little Naruto-kun, she said, patting the stiff man on the back to make him scowl. He always hated being touched, but I think the kid has had a rough day. I am sure he has got to get ready for the festivities. As the last few people left, Naruto turned around to see Namita Suzume use a few wind jutsus to pick up the trash and put them into a bin. The orphan decided to stay around and help finish cleaning and then headed home to get ready for the night's event. He helped out until the sun started to go down. Thanks for your help, Naruto-kun. You can go home now, said Suzume, smiling at him. As he walked down the streets of Konoha, he couldn't help but feel the eyes piercing him, whispering. Sometimes in times like these, Naruto wished that he were invisible. Maybe someday he would fade away, never to know what malice felt like. I wish I could just blend in, then they wouldn't be able to see me. If only it were this evening when the totality of the villagers' rage was focused on the little orphan. Run. Run as fast as you can. shouted an old man in a rusty wheelchair, pointing his gnarled cane at the blonde. "We see you. You can't hide from us. I will always hate you, never forget." Naruto was already too far to hear the rest of what the man with no legs had to say. If this was the only time this happened in the festival, he wouldn't have been so concerned. However, this incident seemed to take place every few minutes, resulting in him trying to hide himself from the crowd, only to be spotted and be humiliated in public once again. "I didn't do anything," the Uzumaki growled. "All I wanted was to fit in. Was that wrong? I wore my best outfit. I talked politely. I did everything Suzume-sensei told me to do, and people are still mean to me." He could hear the fireworks light the sky as he walked further and further away from the town. Looking up into the infinite night, Naruto saw beautiful designs color the sky with flashes and sparks. Still, it is dazzling.
Naruto's wanderings took him near the onsen. The major events of the night's activities would start in a few hours. Many of the women in Konoha took their time in the bathing house, feeling refreshed to go out into the stalls in the town square, where at the stroke of midnight the Hokage would make an announcement in the platform.
"Sure is busy tonight." The orphan saw that there were many females entering the bathhouse, meaning that it was probably full. Figures, they probably wouldn't let me in anyway. If only there was some way. Some technique that would allow me to just blend in without me getting noticed, Naruto said, clenching his fist in front of his face, thinking how horrible his henge was. Then I wouldn't have to worry about people finding me. I could be right there just like everyone else. He unclenched his small fist and looked at his palm. "But I don't know a jutsu that makes you invisible."
Ho, 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 Naruto heard someone giggle near one of the onsen fences. The blonde decided to follow the giggling sound. When he reached the source, he saw a tall man with white hair, pulled into an enormous ponytail. "Satsuki-chan, my, how you have grown. It would be a crime not look. Forgive this old hermit, he. The boy thought the pervert had some kind of death wish because anyone would clearly see him looking at the females with his telescope, while standing on an annoyed-looking orange toad. "Why am I always summoned for this?" it muttered. "Because I promised to take you to the forest for some grub," the old man answered, adjusting his scope to get a better look at his targets. "You are a glutton, Bunt, you'll do anything for food." The large toad only yawned, sticking its large tongue out to taste the air. "Still, I think you should use that jutsu of yours. I really don't want to be caught dead like this." Naruto's ears perked up at this. The little boy got behind a wooden pole, watching intently as the perverted hermit got his hands together. "This technique has never let me down. Too bad it is only for special occasions. Transparent escape technique. Amazing." Naruto saw the large man fade into nothing. "I don't see him or the toad anywhere." He walked from behind the pole and took small steps towards the direction he was sure he saw the two become invisible. The boy poked the spot he was sure the pervert was hiding at. "Oi, you really are transparent." "What the?" The toad sage's body slowly poofed into existence. "Great, it is just a brat. Go away. I am in the middle of research right now." "Teach me," Naruto said, his body jumping up to look at the senin in the face. "Show me that jutsu." "No, please. No, I know a hidden way to get into the bathing house that nobody knows about," Naruto admitted. It wasn't a lie. Sometimes he would have to come here when his pipes weren't working. Since the people running the establishment never let him, he was forced to find alternate means to enter the facility. "There is a spot that gives you a good view of the woman's side." That part was a lie, but the man didn't have to know that. Jiraiya scratched his chin, contemplating the boy's offer. "You drive a hard bargain. Kid, you got yourself a deal." What was the harm? What could the little blonde do with such a powerless technique? True that he was the only one in the village who could currently use it, but the trick was so useless that it could hardly be used for anything less than peeking on non-ninja females. "Here are the seals, and you push the chakra through like this." It didn't take Naruto long to use the jutsu to sneak into the festival. Suzume-sensei's lessons on being careful and cunning allowed him to go through the crowds unnoticed, and he quickly found himself having a great time. The best part was no one shouted for him to leave, and he even got to see some of his classmates having fun with their parents. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, the crowd shouted, becoming noisier with each passing number. 1, Happy Oktoberfest. Wow, how did they do that? Fireworks lit the sky, covering the night with an array of colors the likes of which the orphan had never seen before. The blonde sat on a VIP seat in the town square reserved for a few civilian council members. Luckily, not a single civilian could sense him, so he was safe from their eyes. I have never got a chance to see everything from up close. This was the first time in his life that he felt like a part of the village. He made up his mind that this wouldn't be the last time he celebrated with them despite how terrible they were. He would do all that it took to be a part of this, and next time without having to resort to ninja tricks. Strange how nice they are when I am not around. Why is that?
A large rocket flew into the sky and burst into 100 different sparks, showing the retelling of the Yondaime's battle against the giant demon. The blonde never knew how close he was to answering his own question, but at some point during the story a thought occurred to him. "Happy birthday to me," he muttered, realizing the date. "Only 9 more years left until I am an adult, I can't wait." "Neither can I, Naruto-kun," whispered his fairy dog mother standing in the crowd a few feet away, with Kiba sitting on her shoulders. When the blonde's scent hit her nostrils, she immediately started licking her lips. "You smell so fresh, Naruto." "Mom, did you say something?" asked a confused Kiba, who was sitting on his mother's shoulder. "And why is your shoulder getting so hot? Ew, you're sweating again. I am getting off." "So am I, Kiba, so am I," the exotic woman answered with a grin. Listening to the blonde orphan talk to himself somewhere around Kaharu's seat, then realized what she just said and paled. "Kiba, forget you just heard me say that. I know, how about we get some ice cream?" "Yes, ice cream," the little boy said, dropping down from around his mother's neck and running into the stalls, still not understanding his mother's subtle manipulations. "If you don't catch up, I'll eat yours too, Mom." "Oh, the race is on," Tsume barked, smiling and getting ready to beat her son to the stall. "You ain't eating all the sweets with my money, Kiba." As she ran towards the stall, the mother slowed down just enough to give the invisible boy sitting on the chair a message. "Nice trick, kiddo. If I didn't smell ya, I probably wouldn't have even noticed you sneaking around. You should come over to the compound and show it to me sometime." Leaving a startled blonde open-mouthed under his transparency technique, her head turned back to him one more time as Naruto got a good look at her enormous shapely bum from his position on the chair. "But if you use that jutsu to sneak a peek, then you're never gonna know what milk tastes like, and I know how you want to taste mine." She grinned and laughed at his embarrassment one last time while the invisible blonde sat stuttering, not noticing an enormously sweating Mitarashi Anko standing behind the chair, getting ready to place her derriere onto the seat. "Finally a place for me to rest. And no one is using it. I guess there is no need to let it go to waste." She went around the chair and was already bending at knees, but before she could fully relax onto the seat, she turned her head to the crowd looking for her friend. "Kurenai. I found a chair. Come here and share it with me. It's really squishy." After placing her full weight on it and leaning back, she realized something odd. It must have one of those moving massaging cushions. Technology sure is amazing. "Kurenai. Hurry up, you got to sit on this. It moves, I tell ya. It moves. Oh yeah, it feels so good. Stay still, lil birdie. I am going to control you, cutie pie." The bird started to cry. "Ino-chan's here to play, Feather-san." Near the Nara compound, a 9-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl practiced her daily ninja techniques in a place where she thought was a secret training ground. She wore a light blue shirt and a black collar around her neck. Anyone watching would have noticed the confidence coming out of her like the rays of the golden sun, as well as her deep stupidity. "It's showtime, yippee!" she yelled. "I am a genius." The irony was that it had taken Ino months to finally get it right, and it probably wasn't a good idea to say such things aloud where anyone could easily hide in a tree and watch how the technique was performed. After 2 years of sheer laziness, Ino developed that oh-so-childish habit of saying how to perform her techniques because it helped her focus. Right finger up, left finger down. Had she been paying more attention to her father's ravings about keeping these family techniques a secret, rather than wondering how to impress Sasuke-kun, she probably would have noticed an invisible boy hiding in the bushes. It wasn't like it was hard to spot a mop of furry blonde hair in a green forest, even if it was flashing on and off due to a certain invisibility jutsu. "Okay, so I have to make the bird, then dog seal, then put my hands over my face and pull out my chakra from the center of my inner eye chakra gate and," Ino continued, pushing out a string of chakra out to a bird, called Feathers, and started taking possession of its motor control system. For a brief moment she felt the bird struggle to regain control of its voluntary movements, but Ino slowly managed to bend it to her will, destroying a few cell bodies in its nerves due to chakra overload. "Oh no, I did it again." She needed more practice with this ability because the birds were not supposed to know that there was an invader trying to take over the executive controls in their frontal lobes. The hiding Naruto scoffed at how much time the girl needed to get this technique right. Out of all the kids he spied on to stay borrow ninja moves, Yamanaka Ino had to be the slowest learner. Dumb blonde. "Sorry dad, but I am going to be using the technique for something more useful," Ino snickered. Her father told her she could use this ability to briefly enter the mind of an opponent and steal their knowledge. "Why would I need to take possession of some enemy when I can steal a boyfriend? If I get good enough I can make Sasuke-kun and everyone else do whatever I want, ha ha ha." At the mention of stealing from her father, she further wondered if she could use this to cheat on tests. She never did like studying. Why study when you could follow Sasuke around? Let the forehead study ninja dates and basic information about chakra. She was in it for the real prize, the cutest little boy in the school. This is going to free up so much time. Wait for me, Sasuke-kun. You are an example for all kunoichi to follow, Ino-san. Uzumaki Naruto wasn't entirely sure how he stood in the forest every few weeks watching the girl perform her mind arts out loud, without ripping his blonde hair out of his scalp and shoving it down his rectal chasm. Dear Kami, does she ever shut her mouth? If I have to hear Sasuke-kun one more time, I am going to shove a kunai down someone's epiglottis, and not in a good way. I'll show Sakura, I'll show them all. The lass had an annoying tendency to rant about all the problems in her life, and most of them revolved around his annoying classmate. Sometimes she would continually scream, "Why doesn't he like me?" Then break down crying for hours, for no good reason whatsoever. The girl is a whack job. It didn't help that Sasuke had been even more of a show-off after their battle 3 years ago. Naruto still couldn't believe the bastard remembered that. He now went out of his way to beat Naruto even in simple paper tests in which Naruto was starting to become very proficient at. Sorry Sasuke, I won again. Keep trying, you're not gonna get a higher score in math, I've been budgeting since I was 6. At this rate he would beat Sakura in the academic departments soon, taking the title of the smartest in the class. That is if Iruka started answering some of the questions he had trouble with. Over the years Naruto found out that it was hard to get anyone to tell him anything and he forced himself to start using the pervert's technique more and more. Transparency jutsu turned out to be a lot more useful than he originally thought it would be. Not only can I peep on people, I can do it while walking. At first he was tempted to use it to sneak into places to steal things like food, but he recalled that if he went anywhere with too many ninjas, they would sniff him out right away when he had such huge chakra reserves, making him a living daytime lantern. It was hard learning to hide my signature. He learned what chakra reserves were a few months after the Hinata kidnapping and had to find a way to conceal his presence. He was more than a little surprised to discover he had as much power as a Junin, and voiced it often. So can I learn some ranked techniques, Suzume-sensei? He confronted this problem to Kiba's mother and she gave him some advice on how to suppress his chakra. Basically she told him, hold on to your reserves kid, and don't let go. People can sense you by the minuscule amounts that come off the human body. So just latch onto the chakra that naturally comes out from the endocrine pores of your skin, if you don't want to be found. Now show me that invisibility jutsu, punk. Tsume had heard from Kakashi that the Cloud Ambassador almost killed the boy after sniffing out his large chakra reserves. She figured it might not be a bad idea to give some hints on how to hide it. He wouldn't make much of a ninja if he couldn't sneak up on people. It had taken him the better part of 1 year to get it right, and another year before he could effectively sneak into most places without being noticed. It helped that Naruto's life was a struggle every single day. Just getting food was a problem because the groceries would charge him an insane amount of money for items, not to mention clothing cost him more than he could spend. 6,000 yen for a sock. Fuck you. Resulting in him always wearing the same white shirt with a spiral and orange pants. As a consequence of this mistreatment he learned to make his henge better than it was before, in order to transform himself into a different person, giving himself a double identity. Naruto-chan version 1.0. Which lead to him being hit on by various perverts. Using this continuously over the past few years in combination with transparency jutsu allowed him access to a whole new world he had never knew existed, though he tried to avoid the red light districts. Hey Naruto-chan, you looking for a good time? Aside from this he got to watch how the villagers treated everyone else when he wasn't there and saw that overall, they weren't bad people. But something he learned frightened him. That demon was near my kids again, I wish someone would have the nerve to just kill him. They always talked about a certain demon that dwelled in the village. Naruto voiced his worry when he heard stories about it. I sure hope I don't meet that monster they keep whispering about. Something else he learned was that they didn't have that dark cloud hanging over their heads or that veil of rage coming off them like a mist of poisonous miasma. In fact they were almost like the storybook characters he read about in the library. They all acted like typical village, if he wasn't around that is. Weird. That was another thing that changed since he had learned the transparency jutsu. He could sneak into the library and read. Read as much as he wanted to, without anyone trying to kick him out. I am learning a lot these days, though I don't think Suzume-sensei would be too proud of me. With this knowledge he could learn more about chakra, right? He could become a better ninja? Learn basic sealing? There was suddenly a new dimension of possibilities for him to grab onto and his future potential was limitless. The problem was Uzumaki Naruto ended up following the Toad Hermit into the Konoha library, finding a section intended for adults, nasty kinky, degenerate adults. Oh god my eyes, I shouldn't look, well, just a peek. He thought the older man was going to search for jutsu scrolls hidden in the library. Wrong thought.
The pervert must have learned his techniques from somewhere secretive because Suzume-sensei told him, "There isn't any jutsu that can turn you invisible, Naruto, or at least I don't think there is. There is this rumor going around that Jiraiya of the Sennin does pop out of nowhere in the bathing house, but I don't put too much stock into these things."
Realizing Naruto just kept staring at her chest, she dismissed him with a sigh. "Now run along and practice that body switch. You are doing better than anyone else in the class in that jutsu by far." That got a smile from the blonde. "I want to see you develop some styles with it, mister. If you get your scores up in taijutsu and the written, you might have a shot at passing this year, even if you can't do a clone." Sadly, when Naruto followed the pervert using invisible mode, all it did was lead him to a hidden section in the library called Adult Arts, which contained nothing but "Yahoo, I got it. I did it. Take that, birdie." Ino danced, somewhat running around in a circle adjacent to the screaming bird, who looked like it had its head caved in. The girl was sure full of energy, her shouts getting more birds to take to the skies in the dense green forest. "Who is the girl?" "I am." This reaction brought Naruto's focus from his musings and back to the short-haired fangirl. "Huh. Now I know something Sakura doesn't. She'll be really jealous when she hears about it. Oh wait, I can't tell her, then I can't cheat off her, grr. But I have to show this off to someone. Darn it. Who? I know, I'll try this out on Shikamaru." With that, the blonde girl ran towards the Nara compound, hoping to use her moves on the Nara heir. "Thank Kami I am not your friend, Ino. With friends like you, who needs giant nine-tailed beasts haunting your nightmares?" He really didn't like that sneering fox that appeared in his dreams. As she was gone, Naruto turned off his invisibility to take a look at his surroundings. Closing his eyes, he sensed out if anyone was nearby. He sighed, "Hurry up and get out of the area, Blondie." This was one of the basics of ninjutsu that Tsume had showed him. In order to hide one's own chakra, the ninja had to know how to detect the chakra of others. She explained, "Know what your enemies feel like and you'll have a better guess of what you must feel like to them." However, Naruto was far from an expert at this, and the busty Inuzuka even confessed he would never be good at it. "You suck balls." It took a certain level of training and control to sense chakra from far-off distances. "Do I sense an animal? No wait, that's just an old man crawling." At best, Naruto would know if anyone within a 10 meters radius was around. Anything more than that could be anyone's guess. "Sorry Ino, you're not the only one who knows your family jutsu. I still can't believe you didn't notice that someone was watching you all this time. I didn't even hide my footprints the first day." Naruto grimaced, seeing the bird Ino mind raped earlier. "I thought you were a nice person after seeing how you befriended Sakura that day. But you don't seem to be much of an animal lover, no." Naruto walked around the screaming bird flaying in the ground. Every time Ino practiced on another organism, the creature would die a few moments later. "For what it's worth, I am sorry she did this." Ino didn't seem to care one bit about the animals whose souls she invaded. She was extremely forceful and brutal when it came to practice. For some reason that made Naruto angry. Wildlife was precious. Without nature, the people of Konoha would have a hard time existing. He had learned in class about the delicate balances between the ecosystems and how all various types of organisms were required to keep the environment in balance. That's why the Abarum rock. He started pumping chakra through his body to get ready to do the repulsive technique that was a complete and utter invasion of moral decency. "Don't worry, I'll put this ability to better use than just seeing how much force it takes to control the Uchiha Teme or cheating on tests." Naruto's hands formed the same seals the other more exuberant blonde made moments ago. Unlike Ino, Naruto had memorized word for word all the hand seals in his texts. "You didn't even do the dog seal correctly, baka." Although his chakra control was nowhere near the collared girl's, he already knew that the hand seals this technique used required more push with chakra than pull, and Naruto had enough chakra to waste, and wasting chakra trying to get it right wasn't a big deal to him. "Alright, let's do this. Brain, don't fail me now." He took in a deep breath and shouted the name of the mind art, directing it to a nearby squirrel. "Shintention no Jutsu. Come back here," Makoto shouted, running into the forest hoping to catch the person who peeked on her, an infiltrator who had tried to sneak into her section of the compound. Earlier she felt something was off when she sensed a strange chakra signature near the edges of her outdoor tub. She was taking a nice soak in the large hot pool when her female senses told her she was being watched. "You can run all you want, but I will catch you, nephew Tsukasa." Tonight her husband and the rest of the Uchiha clan were going to invade Konoha. The elders were having their meeting this moment, and soon everyone was going to get ready to attack. An hour ago she decided to take one last soak in her house before the invasion began. She figured this would be the last time she would ever enjoy this luxury. "I am going to miss this place," she told herself moments before the chase. The curvy dark-haired mother wished it didn't have to come down to this, but understood that this was an inevitable conclusion that was a result of plans made long before she was born. Many of the Uchiha clan members knew that this would probably destroy them all, but the chance that they might be able to get what was theirs was all the reason they needed to initiate this unrest.
Wait a minute, she then thought of something that didn't occur to her until now. Where is Itachi? I sent him out to get milk last Tuesday, what in Kami's name is taking him so long?
She hadn't seen her son for the past few days and wondered if Itachi was alright. The boy had a terrible sense of direction, but it couldn't have taken him that long to get dairy products. As she pondered those thoughts in the pool of warm bubbly water, covering her silky smooth skin, she had a sinking feeling that someone or something was spying on her. Why'd I get the feeling someone is watching me? She whispered. Makoto threw a bucket at where she thought the infiltrator was and she heard a groan of pain. It didn't take her long to put on some bathrobes and chase after the running sounds. Ha! I knew it, oh dear, he saw me naked. Kya, hentai.
Embarrassed and mollified at being peeked on by an unknown person, most likely a little Uchiha Tsukasa, her curious nephew, as it was their compound. She ran after the person, screaming at him to stop. You'll never get away with this. You can't keep peeking on your aunt's Uchiha Tsukasa. I swear I'm going to tell your mother. Come back here. Damn it all, I didn't even get a good look. Naruto had no idea who this Tsukasa was, but the orphan Uzumaki should have known that something like this was bound to happen when he got a bit curious. He cursed himself for falling into his weakness. Darn it, I'm turning into a peeping Tom. What's happening to me? He had originally followed one of the children into the Uchiha compound hoping to steal a few jutsus, but quickly found out there would be no practicing that day. It seemed like all the kids were being taken by their parents and gathered in groups, where they were led by some old clan members into a safe house, or at least that was what it looked like. Feeling like it was all a waste of time, but trying to salvage the trip, he decided to go to Sasuke's house if only to play a prank on the annoying boy. Moments ago he smiled evilly thinking about the presents he could leave in the boy's room. Call me a loser, will you? We'll see who is the loser when you find yourself sleeping in manure, deep shit. He tried to sneak into the black-haired boy's house by jumping his fence and found himself on the edges of a large outdoor hot tub. Sasuke sure is rich, nice tub. That normally wouldn't have interested him, but Sasuke's bouncy mother just happened to be inside it. I shouldn't be looking at this. Suzume-sensei said I should respect women's privacy, whatever the hell that means, and I would be just as bad as that toad pervert if I looked at her, but still.
To 9-year-old Uzumaki Naruto, who had recently started having a fascination for the female anatomy, blame it on library porn. This was a forbidden fruit he just couldn't resist. I'll just look a little, no one has to know. I'm not hurting anyone, am I? This is perfectly natural, isn't it? Now, as a result, he found himself being chased into the Uchiha forest with an angry mother in tow. She screamed, "Young man, you are going to be in so much trouble. Wait, slow down, mister, don't make me send Itachi after you." That made Naruto run even faster. He knew exactly who Itachi was, everyone did. He stuttered worse than before. "I better get out of here. Stupid. What kind of idiot risks his life peeking on his enemy's gorgeous mother? Wait, that didn't come out right. Especially when her son happens to be one of the strongest ninja in the village. I'm an idiot. I should know better," he chided, forcing his feet to push off more chakra and hopping to a nearby tree. This wasn't the first time Naruto was chased by a ninja, and he was certain this was not going to be the last. "Please Kami, let me make it through the night. I'm not a bad person, really." Many times before, more experienced genin would discover they were being watched and went out of their way to hunt down the what they would angrily refer to as the spy, who was watching me, forcing Naruto to think strategically on evasion tactics and running the hell out of there. Currently he zigzagged around the forest, through trees, under bushes, and compressed his chakra so that it would be more difficult to find where he was. This is tough. By remaining invisible it made it much harder for the mother to track him down, but that didn't stop her from yelling at him to slow down. "Tsukasa, I swear to Kami you've picked the absolute worst time to do this. I'm not going to stop hunting you until I get you back to your mother, do you hear me? Tsukasa." "I'm in for a long chase," Naruto panted, seeing the moon rising in the dark sky. Still, where the hell are the other adults? Weird. Most other compounds have at least 1 or 2 guards patrolling the area. So what the hell is going on? Aunt Makoto is getting really angry. "Young man, I am going to start getting serious if you don't stop this foolishness," Sasuke's mother shouted. She herself had retired a long time ago and found she just wasn't as fast as she used to be. "Oh dear, I must have put on some weight." Sweat poured down her forehead and her hands were already wiping it off. It didn't help that the night was particularly warm, meaning that it was most likely going to rain soon. "I'll start firing, you know I will." Naruto really didn't like the idea of being set on atomic combustion, The thought of flames consuming his body only made him jump higher and higher onto the trees, channeling enough chakra through his legs to give away his position, but he didn't care, he had to get away. He grunted when he hit a branch. Ouch, this is so not my night, I'm never coming here again.
We have to get back to the compound. I am going to give you till the count of 5, and I'll start the cadence. 1, 2, she shouted, scanning for her nephew. 3, 4, forget it, my patience is running out. Kaden. Phoenix Spitfire. Quote. Makoto started shooting streams of flames out from her mouth, causing the culprit to run in directions away from the flame. She smiled at her own genius. I'll force you back to the compound, then we'll have a little talk, nephew-kun.
Oh shit. Naruto shouted, running back to the compound. Is being hidden worth being burned alive? A flashback of seeing Jiraiya bruised and half-dead outside the bathing house when he was caught came to the surface of his conscious. On second thought, burns suddenly don't seem so bad. Makoto chased the orphan back to her home, not realizing how late it was. When she finally sensed the peeping Tom enter the compound, she sighed in relief and made a move to apprehend him. Come over here. I am fed up of this game, Tsukasa. You have to get to the safe house, or you could be key. She didn't get to finish those words, or even bother chasing down the invisible blonde who was running down the bloody streets, because the streets were just that. Bloody. What happened?
Kana-san, she screamed, seeing the corpse of her great-aunt headless on the sidewalk. It looked like they had opened the door to greet someone, and the shocked look on the face of the head indicated that they did not suspect whoever it was who killed them to slice their heads off. Who could have done this? Who? A half a mile away another boy was having his own difficulty. He was desperate to leave this place, especially after seeing all the dead bodies lining the streets. I got to get out of here. There is probably some kind of monster on the loose, chopping people's heads off.
It was then that Naruto came upon a scene that he was sure that he didn't belong in.
Walking out toward the compound exit was Uchiha Itachi sheathing his bloody katana. The Uzumaki already pieced together what probably happened from the trail of blood behind the teen, but what Naruto was uncertain about were the tears in his eyes. Why is he crying? Is he sad for killing all these people?
Wait! Sasuke shouted, flinging a few shuriken at his older brother. Come back here, Oni-san. Itachi stopped the weapons with his headband, which fell to the ground, and turned back to face his little brother. Naruto was astonished at the expression the teenager had. Heartbreak, longing, pain, anguish, and hesitation. He just killed everyone here, and it's tearing him apart. But why not kill Sasuke? Isn't this what he wanted? This way there would be no witnesses.
The crying Sasuke then looked up at his brother and slowly lost consciousness, falling into a deep sleep. Ni-chan, don't.
At this point Itachi got down to the boy's level and checked his pulse. His spinning eyes stopped spinning, but continued to bleed red, so he wiped off the tears from his face. He turned to face the blonde in the shadows. His voice was but a whisper, but Naruto felt like it was as clear as crystal and 3 times as loud. He said, Uzumaki, I would advise you to never speak what you have seen today, ever. Naruto yelped when he heard those words. If you value your life, then wipe this memory from your mind. His eyes continued to bleed crimson and his Sharingan started to disappear back to his normal black. Sadly, I am out of mind erase jutsu at the moment. Perhaps I have used too much chakra tonight. I am not Naruto, I just sound like him, the blonde boy lied from the shadows, his heart feeling like it was going to explode and precipitate into the surroundings. He continued, but I won't tell what I saw, I swear. You have to believe me. I'm good at keeping secrets. I'm already keeping one. Don't kill me, please believe me.
What kind of secret could you be keeping? He whispered.
Despite the situation, Itachi was curious what the cowardly blonde's secret was, but he could already sense reinforcements coming. I will hold you to it, Naruto-kun. I have heard things about you from my brother. Naruto had a bad feeling about this. You seem to be good friends with him. That actually got a raised eyebrow from Naruto, which was rare. It would be wonderful if we didn't have to meet under such difficult circumstance, but as you can see, making conversation is not in my agenda at this moment. Naruto made no comment on that. For your sake, let us hope our paths never cross, and watch out for Sasuke. There is more to this evening than you know. Naruto didn't want to tell him that he actually hated Sasuke, and it would give a small amount of pleasure to watch Itachi skewer the boy with his katana, but he kept his mouth shut. He stuttered out a response, hoping to buy some time for the Anbu to arrive. Why, yes. Right. Me and Sasuke go way back. We are great friends, best friends. Sure, don't hurt me. Itachi was already channeling energy through his legs to make for a high-speed dash, but decided he needed to say one more thing to the blonde. Naruto-kun, be careful. There are things at work in this village that are already trying to manipulate you. Then his voice became darker. Remember that the third will not always be here to protect you. When that day comes, your world will crumble. Be prepared for that moment. Fare ye well, Uzumaki. Itachi put on an all too familiar fox mask on his face and leapt into the darkness of the forest. It would be years before anyone from Konoha would see him again. When he was gone, Naruto dropped to the ground, letting go of the breath he was holding. At first he was relieved that he survived this, but then realized something hidden behind his message. He snarled in anger and confusion, I already have enough to deal with in this two-faced village. This better not have something to do with that demon people are not allowed to talk about. And me and Sasuke, give me a break. What is that guy talking about? Sasuke, sweetie. Where are you, baby? It's not safe outside.
I forgot Sasuke's mother is chasing me. What do I do? Naruto cursed. He ran up to check on his classmate, a plan already forming in his mind, remembering that he was still being hunted by a beautiful 30ish woman. Damn it all, what does this all mean? Is his brother just messing with me? Really, everyone in this village is trying to screw with my mind, well good. They can all go screw themselves. Shaking his head, he let his thoughts become clearer. He mumbled, I'll think about all this later. Right now I have to convince Sasuke's mom that I saved the idiot. Why was Itachi so concerned about me and Sasuke? Best friend my ass, the arrogant fool doesn't like anyone, let alone the former Dobi. Naruto didn't like being manipulated.
He went up to Sasuke and carried him in his small arms. Naruto noticed he weighed less than him.
Uzumaki wondered when it was that he outweighed Sasuke, but he didn't get a chance to ponder that question because it was just in that time that he was able to see his mother come out from the corner of a building, her long hair wet from sweat, her skin flushed.
Despite this, she still managed to look good. Understandably, her voice sounded hysterical. She squeaked, Is he all right? My poor baby isn't hurt, is he? Yes, he's just fine. No need to worry, Makoto-san, Naruto lied, thinking how the boy looked to be on the edge of insanity before he fell asleep. What did he think he was going to do with a few shuriken? Did he really expect to beat Itachi like that? I saved him before Itachi could kill him?
For a second Naruto hoped the weasel wasn't in the bushes listening to this. He even looked both ways for a sword that might chop his head off. Before Naruto knew what was happening, he found himself being crushed in a pair of naked breasts, with nice pink nipples coming from the centers. The orphan just realized that half her fluffy white robes had come undone and she was naked underneath. You were so brave. Sasuke's mother hugged him close, pushing his small face into her large pale melons, and Naruto started sniffing the vanilla scent. Boobs. He registered that they were the color of ivory milk chocolate. Her full lips were spitting words faster than he ever thought possible from the noble woman. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wouldn't know what I would do if he was gone. I owe you so much, Uzumaki-san. You saved my darling. What could I ever do to repay you?
Before Naruto could reply, he felt himself fall into the ground and watched the mother pick up her son and embrace him. The blonde damned his fortune. Sasuke gets all the luck. Then shut up, hoping Makoto didn't hear that. It would make him sound slightly petty to complain that he wasn't getting the attention he deserved. But she did say she owes me. You had better leave before the Anbu get here, Makoto said, her pasty skin shining in the moonlight. They will want to know why you were here. Please go and come and see me if you need anything, Naruto-kun. No one needed to tell Naruto to run. He was a runner by nature and bolted in the first sight of trouble. Some deeper voice in his head told him that he shouldn't have lied like that. I am such a coward. But at least I get to live. This place had doomsday written all over it, and he didn't want to be here when the shit hit the fan, no pun intended. He scowled, thinking how messed up the night was. I have a feeling things are never going to be the same again. But it isn't like this is my problem. What does this matter to me? It isn't like Sasuke plays a big role in my life or anything, right? Even though he was running out of there as fast as his small legs could take him, he looked back one last time, seeing the older woman hugging her son, sobbing until her tear ducts were empty, and screaming, thanked Kami to the heavens for letting her precious angel survive this massacre. A part of him felt that green beast called envy growing inside of him. It took the form of a lustful wish for someone to smother him as well. What a waste of time. I shouldn't have come here, he said. After all he has been through, that night in the end he gained nothing. To him it was all a zero-sum race that only resulted in an inevitable conclusion. One that was always against his favor. His eyes narrowed tragically thinking about it, then darkened. It's just not fair. Why me? I try so hard. I work harder for appreciation more than anyone else in this village, but I am all alone. Always alone. Rain poured down the rooftops and onto the grounds of the Inuzuka compound. Tsume normally didn't pay attention to such details, but the problem was that one of the tiles were broken.
It was the only explanation as to why her living room had water dripping from the ceiling. Grr, lousy contractors. One of these days I am going to find that bastard Tsume and give him a piece of my.
A pounding knock at her door alerted her that someone was outside. She got off to the floor, putting another bowl on the ground to catch the rain. Better not be anyone important, like hell I want anyone to see we have leaks. Kiba better not bring over Choji, that kid's mama is a huge gossip. As she got closer to the door the knocks became louder and more impatient. She sniffed out whoever was outside but found it difficult because of the rain outside. A lightning bolt hit the background making her hearing ring violently for a second. Shouldn't have put so much chakra into these ears, could have burst my eardrums when the bolt hit. Alright, hold on, I am opening the door. What do ya want, she said, barely catching the little wet person run into the house foyer, shaking like a jitterbug. Naruto? The blonde looked up at the mature woman while panting for breath. He appeared more afraid than she had ever seen him in her life. Over the years the boy would occasionally come over when Kiba wasn't around. Sometimes he would say 1 or 2 words. Other times he would ask for simple advice, and on awkward occasions, he would come here to take a bath, his excuse being, I missed the hydro bill and they cut out my water. What happened? Kid? Tsume asked, you don't look so hot. Dead. The Uchiha are dead, Naruto said, holding his heart. Tsume could hear it without having to use her jutsu. Something was wrong. Itachi killed them. Beheaded them all. Tsume wasn't sure what to say. This had to be one of the worst jokes she had ever heard, or something serious was going down in the other side of Konoha. Naruto, have you been taking drugs? What? No, didn't you hear what I said? They're dead, as in not alive. Corpses. They're bloody cadavers. Uzumaki shouted, his eyes shifting everywhere, looking left and right. Are the Anbu following me? Tsume sighed and tried to sense anyone in the immediate vicinity. She dripped chakra into her ear channel and made her eardrums pick up any sounds that were unusual. No, nothing out of the ordinary, except Kuro humping a dead animal. He'll probably eat it later. Good, Naruto sighed in relief, though slightly mortified seeing a mental picture of the necrophilia, bestiality scene. I was afraid they might ask me questions. What is wrong with that? It isn't like you're hiding anything. This got a nervous laugh from the blonde. You just tell them what you saw and they'll leave y'all alone, the mother said, shaking her head at the boy's worry but not believing a word coming out of his mouth. Go get in the shower. Put on some hot water before you catch a cold. I'll meet you there and you can tell me what happened. After doing just that, Tsume came in wearing a cozy white towel. It didn't do much to cover her shame because the towel was more specifically wrapped around her brown hair. She sat on the stool behind the boy and lifted a bucket of warm water, splashing it on his head. Okay, you have some explaining to do, Naruto-kun. The orphan did just that. He recounted the night's events, and then she told me to run. I did the right thing, didn't I? That is a tricky question, Kiba's mom replied. There are a few gaps in your story that you aren't telling me, and I'm no interrogation expert, kiddo. I guess Makoto-chan knew that you were doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or that she might have some doubtful reasons to believe in your heroic rescue of Sasuke. Naruto scowled. He thought it was a good lie. If I were in your shoes I probably wouldn't have saved him, and that rumor about how you stopped that cloud ninja is a bit fishy, so already you're a pretty suspicious character. I keep telling you, I didn't do anything. I just happened to be there at the right time to distract him, he grumbled, but purred when the woman stroked his back. It felt remarkably warm. But now I get ninjas I've never met before congratulating me when I walk down the street. That made his eyes light up. Can you believe it? I can go into the ninja store and actually buy things. I even got a discount on shuriken. Hold still, there's some dandruff here, Tsume grumbled, somewhat jealous of the softness of his fluffy hair, but still disgusted by how little hygiene he maintained. How often do you take a bath anyway? It looks like something crawled into your hair and died. That isn't fair, they cut off my water again, he mumbled. I took a shower in the woods waterfall. I thought it was a good idea because I didn't want to keep coming back here. Look, Naruto. The only people who seem to live here nowadays is me and Kiba, and you know how often Kiba comes home, she growled, thinking about her less than loving son. He's always too busy playing with Akamaru, and visiting his sister's animal clinic. Couldn't he train here? Naruto asked. This place has a lot of empty spaces. It sure does, but he'd prefer to spend some time in Shino's place. There are a lot more people there for him to hang around, she said, brushing off some stray brown strands from her spiky head, while removing her towel. It gets pretty lonely here. Don't you have lots of friends, Tsume-san? You're a nice person, Naruto admitted, feeling slightly red. It was embarrassing saying polite things to someone, especially when they weren't wearing anything. What about Hiashi? He is a friend, isn't he? Hiashi is stuck in that gigantic temple called the Branch House. I told you he's more or less a servant, the brunette complained, When he has spare time he has to use it to train Neji. Cute kid. I would have hated to see what he would have grown up to be if they actually killed his father. Wait, I know Neji. He is a year ahead of me. He walks Hinata-san home, the container realized. He keeps glaring at me when Hinata looks my way. There is nothing adorable about him. Twin brothers, kiddo. Technically he is the half-brother of Hinata-chan, the Inuzuka smirked. Maybe he is afraid that his half-sister has fallen for her savior. What? Naruto stuttered, turning around to see the chuckling lady. What are you talking about? I guess I'm just talking nonsense. You're way too little for those games, she sneered. You have so much to learn, little grasshopper. I know more than you think, he mumbled. I think already know too much. What was that you said? Sorry, I keep forgetting these super sensitive ears can pick up the smallest vibrations of sounds, she said, turning to the boy around to face her, getting him to blush seeing her body naked. Oh, grow up, this isn't the first time we've taken a bath together. She winked. Remember that time you sucked on my... Okay. Please stop, don't say it. I was 7, he whined, looking so ashamed of himself. How was I supposed to know what I was doing? You have to believe me, I didn't know how wrong that was. I am not a pervert. Whoa, relax, don't get so defensive, the mother interjected, laughing at his haste. I know you weren't thinking. Hell, neither was I was just trying to ruffle your feathers, Naruto-kun. You're a good kid, don't let anyone tell ya otherwise. Oh, well, for what it's worth, sorry about that, the blonde replied, his head swimming with the blood rushing to his head. Tsume really knew how to massage a scalp, she wasn't a mother for nothing. It's just that I have been doing some reading lately and I found out what it was that I did. I thought that you would have taken it personally, you know, because it is something adults do when they have sex. What did you just say? Tsume said, dropping the shampoo bottle she was holding. Her face went slightly pale. You have been reading what now? It was an accident, really, Naruto defended. I followed this ninja thinking that he was going to show me a stash of jutsu, but it turned out to be naked girls doing things to other naked girls, and stuff like that. Tsume's mind was already rolling up ideas of what Naruto must be thinking. How long have you been reading this?
Not long, Naruto tried to say, feeling the awkwardness grow, just the last year or so, that's all. At first I was scared, you know, when we first met you told me about those two places that fit together in a man and woman's body. Well, I wanted to know how they fit together, and why. But after I got over the fear, well, what the characters were doing started to pull me in. Tsume sighed, even though I knew it was kind of wrong to look at stuff like that.
Naruto, you didn't, Tsume warned, but she was actually joking, she continued, and after all the time Suzume told you not to look at smut like that. Oh, how disappointed little Miss Four Eyes would be. I was curious. I couldn't help but know more, Naruto answered. He felt himself start to sweat from his pores, his cheeks filling up red. No one told me to stop. There wasn't anyone around, I didn't know any better. I was 7, Tsume-san. 7. There wasn't anything good to read at the library. It turns out you can't just walk into the library and find the secret to being a strong ninja. All I got were glares from the librarians, that was it. His voice became louder. It wasn't so bad last year, I didn't read that much. But I just turned 9, and well, things just haven't been the same. I can't help but start looking at girls, I just feel so lonely. Naruto tried to finish, but the truth always has a way of coming out. Yes. It happens. You're growing up and things look confusing. What you used to think was okay suddenly doesn't seem like such a good idea. As you get older, the things you could do in the past, you'll have to let go. She rubbed his back. Like right now, we're taking a bath together. In a year that'll have to stop because not only will you start to look at girls, you'll start to look at the women as well, the mother said, turning Naruto to face her. The Uzumaki's eyes traveled up and down her olive-colored body. Tsume continued, already you are starting to look at me differently than you did when we first met, aren't you? Naruto nodded. 3 years ago when you came here, what were you looking for? I don't know, Naruto said, his blue eyes never leaving Tsume's own. I was curious. I saw you naked. At the time I hadn't seen anything like that. At first I thought you were in pain, but then realized that you weren't. Don't ask me how. I guess it was just instinct. His instincts were telling him to hug her right now. There's still a lot that I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. This isn't something I want to be teaching you, Naruto-kun, Tsume said, internally laughing at the seriousness of the situation, but she felt herself sobering at this bit of info as well. When the time comes you'll know what to do when you meet the right girl. Tsume became more serious. I think you should hold off with the smut for now, you are too young for this game. The games we adults play are not something to take in lightly, most of the time it ends with no winners or losers, all we can really hope for is how long we can keep it up. I don't get it, Naruto whispered, eyeing the spiky brown bush where Tsume's flower lay underneath. He really wanted to see it, that thing he read about called the female reproductive system. I don't understand these feelings. I want to look at girls naked, more and more, see their private parts. Here he didn't want to say anything, but he had to let it out. Kami, I even took a peek at Sasuke's mom. It just keeps growing. Is there something wrong with me? I mean, even the characters I read in those stories of Uchiha are at least 15 years old. They aren't some 9-year-old freak spying on unsuspecting women.
There was something wrong with the boy. Tsume knew it for a while. Perhaps that was where his attraction lay. There are few things more gripping than a struggling martyr, on a quest to battle all the pain and suffering that covered their world. To a mother like Tsume, seeing a child suffer hurt a lot. She couldn't understand how any other mom could look at the boy and not see a little baby who needed a bit of love.
It could have been any one of their children that day the Kyuubi attacked, but it wasn't. Instead it was this orphan who resembled little Uzumaki Kushina the more he grew, not in looks but in personality. He may not have been rash or chaotic, but he had the same spunk and energy very few people ever displayed in his age, along with a fierceness to learn that surpassed anything she had seen before.
She knew he had been sneaking into the compounds of the other clans and watching their children perform jutsus. It was a dangerous game he was playing, and she was sure someday this would come back to bite him in the ass, but she let it go.
How many other ninja students his age went out of their way to obtain knowledge like he did? None. Not a single person was willing to break the law to get ahead, risk everything just so that they would have a better shot at being a shinobi. What this told Tsume was the man he would one day grow up to be. Uzumaki Naruto was as devilish as they came at the age of 9. What would be like when he was 12, 14, 16? Only time would tell, but that was all right. She had enough time to spare. Someday he would show everyone what kind of mistake they had been making treating him the way he was treated right now. The only downside was she hoped she would be alive to see that day. What are you thinking, Tsume-san? Naruto asked. He put his hands on her cheek, and turning her to look him in the eye. You told me not to think too much, but here you were looking all sad. Sorry, I just have a little something in my eye, she said, suddenly finding the urge to hug the blonde. The blonde, not sure what to do, hugged her back. His head was cupped between her large breasts. You are pretty brave, Naruto. Did I ever tell you that? No, you told me I am stupid, he said. He found his arms wrap around her wet body more firmly. She was getting warmer, her heart beating faster. But sometimes I do stupid things. You know, I know you have been keeping an eye on you, right? She asked him. I know you have been stealing techniques and I haven't told the Hokage anything, don't you? Yes, he answered, then looked down, his face sliding deeper between her large chest. Feeling his eyes start to water. I know, it's just I don't have a choice, Tsume-san. The first test is coming up. I have to pass it this time. After this year Suzume-sensei will be gone, and I don't think Iruka will let me be a genin when I am only 9, so this is my only chance. The Uzumaki Naruto of 9 years was much heavier than he was when he was 6, and at least a foot taller as well, she wondered. Kids sure grow fast, while picking him up so that he wrapped his legs around her naked waist as well. She was suddenly glad he wore that white towel, because she could feel herself heating up, and she sensed him warm up. The mother already suspected what was coming. Tsume-san, did you know I like you? Naruto said, hiding his face in her large bosom. Yes. Did you know I really like you, he said, his voice cracking. I know you're lonely. I can do some things. I read about them. Naruto, don't say another word, she said. We really shouldn't talk about this, kiddo. Maybe in a few more years, but not right now. I am not big right now, but I'll get taller, you'll see, he pleaded. It is just that I don't want you to go away. You're the only friend I have. I won't go anywhere. I am 30-ish old woman, with 2 kids, she said cynically. Oh yeah. I am a real catch. I'll get married and move far away. You are a nice person, it's the inside that counts, not that I'm saying you're ugly because you are really pretty. Oh, I am bad at this. He stuffed his blushing face in her chest. You know what I mean, don't you? Not to everyone, kid, she said, patting him on his fuzzy head while his hands started to feel up her naked body. This reminded her of that one hentai comic she read about. I don't like most people. Humans can be pretty cruel to each other. You make a mistake and no one lets you forget it. An image of little Anko went through her mind. Folks aren't nice in this village, Naruto-kun. They're just actors, pretenders, liars, and chronic masturbators. Kakashi's face popped up in her conscious. This lifestyle just brings you further into a dimension of taboo and debauchery, and don't even get me started about the morals of half the population of this village. Did you know we have a Jashin church hidden underground? Holy shit. How fucked up is that? Naruto had no idea what that meant. There really aren't any good people left in this shithole. A flashback of Danzo went through her mind. Yeah, real shitholes. You're wrong, Tsume-san. You're a good mom. When your husband left, you didn't just abandon your kids. I lived in an orphanage all my life and I've seen it happen all the time, he said. If I had a mom like you I'd be happy. Kiba and Hana are lucky. Believe me, I haven't seen any other moms so active in their kids' lives, not even Sasuke's. Not only do you cook and take care of this place, but you train them too. That is great, kid, real sweet, but Kiba doesn't seem to think so, she sighed. Hana doesn't even seem to like me that much either. You talk about the great things I do, but when your kids just end up stabbing you in the back, then what does that tell you about the person's parenting skills? You don't deserve that, he said. He pulled his face out of her chest long enough to get a good look at her chocolate-colored body, and directing his slitted blue irises to her own. Tsume was touched at the care he had in his eyes, his sea blue eyes, so deep it was like falling into the depths of an endless ocean. If it were me. This might be an awkward question, but you are not going to kill my kids, are ya? She asked uncomfortably. Naruto still enveloped around her larger, more voluminous figure. I mean, that's flattering and all, but this is usually the part where things go to hell and you start making plans to kill off my loved ones like some obsessed psycho. That got Naruto to gasp. This wasn't the type of reaction he wanted. Then after you have buried the corpses, and hidden the evidence, you think the two of us are going to be one big happy family, and force me to live with ya happily ever after. Am I getting warm? She chuckled uncomfortably, hoping that wasn't going through his thoughts. Or have you already started the plans and put them in motion, No, I just saw Itachi kill a lot of people, his whole family even. There was so much blood and pee. Ew. I can't do that, Naruto answered, taken aback at how insane he must have sounded a moment ago. Angst really wasn't his strength. He'd have to leave that skill to Sasuke in the future. And why would I kill Kiba? He is a jerk, but he hasn't done anything to me. Tsume-san, I am not crazy, you know that, don't you? You sure? Yes. Positive? She said, laughing his embarrassment. Some of the funniest moments of her life had been with this kid. Can you guarantee the thought didn't occur to you at least once? 100%. 67%. Phew. Well, this is awkward, she sighed in relief. What are you doing? Naruto's head was resting on her breasts. Tsume had a feeling he was going to try something he shouldn't, but who was she to deny him? In fact, a large part of her probably wanted to see what he was going to do. Blame it on his environment and my lack of morals. A life of loneliness and living with horny dogs could do that to a person. Can I? Is it all right? Just a little, Naruto asked with those puppy dog eyes. To a woman who had taken care of puppies half her life, it said a lot that the orphan's cuteness surpassed those of a dozen litters of newborn kits. You promised I could. Go ahead, she sighed, rubbing her temples, thinking how easily she gave in. Could have put up a little fight, but the boy reminded him too much of the other red-haired Uzumaki. And I thought only one other person had this effect on me. Naruto started to suck on her breasts. Tsume moaned, trying to judge what he could do. The large brown nipples were clamped around his mouth ever so softly. He slurped greedily like he was trying to get milk out of a bottle. Not so fast, pace yourself. He looked like a newborn baby with his eyes half closed, blocking out everything except the gentle sensation of trying to get milk trickling into his mouth. His hands went to the breast that he was working on and he played with it. Tsume encouraged the behavior by breathing in harsher. Pretty good, keep going, she panted. At this suggestion, Naruto did just that, making his work more sloppy and squeezing on the tan balloons with a bit more technique. The book says if I swirl them it'll have a different feel. Does it feel any different? Just shut up and keep doing what you're doing. In fact, I am not even going to answer you in a few minutes. You're not even here, there just happens to be something playing with my breasts that I can't see. As if on cue, Naruto did just that, turned himself invisible. Hey, I didn't mean that literally. Come back here, I want to at least know what you're doing. Oh. Naruto's teeth fiercely bit down her pointy hardness, then licked them, then bit on it again. Tsume held on to his hair and squeezed her hands on his scalp, directing his head to certain angles. Right there, oh yeah, snugglekins. Naruto in response rubbed his hands on the sides of her breasts and started to grind against her belly, which caused the mother to groan in want. Oh yeah, keep rubbing me, baby, wow, you're pretty good at this. Suzume-sene must be a good teacher, The blonde liked the compliment. It wasn't often that someone praised him when he did something correctly, but the jab at Suzume was uncalled for. His feelings for his teacher shouldn't be taken so lightly. I haven't tried anything on sensei yet, you have to believe me. Who cares, keep doing what you're doing, touch me more. At her direction his fingers continued to pinch on the pointy nipples and his invisible face turned to face Kiba's mother as his body started to pop into existence once again. That's right, keep sucking me, lick this dirty mother, slobber on me you son of a bitch. Ah, oh I can feel your teeth biting my nipples, bite harder. Seeing how her tongue came out of her mouth like some dog when it was begging for her treats, Naruto thought he was doing pretty good. You're better than Kiba's dad. He knew he was doing even better when Tsume's hands came out of nowhere and started fondling his butt, This was the response he wanted. Kiba's mother's eyes looked glazed over and downright vicious with need and want. Sorry Naruto-kun, but you're not the only one who is about to get embarrassed. Tsume pulled off his white towel that was wrapped around his waist, and in a second Naruto found himself naked. He was just glad that Tsume couldn't see his small PP because he was so close to her body, but that didn't stop her from fondling his naked butt cheeks. Ticklish, aren't you? Before Naruto could say anything, Tsume started tickling his bum, using her sharp nails to touch a few nerves that he didn't know existed, and fondling the middle, squeezing them like a pair of heavy water balloons. Tsume-san, don't do that. It feels so strange. Oh yeah? She grinned, drool still pooling down her face, her white canines smiling at him with bestial hunger. This wasn't good. She was descended into her primal instincts. Then I am doing a pretty good deed, aren't I? Most kids never get this from anyone, let alone your friendly neighborhood MILF. Naruto looked puzzled. He had heard that word before. You're still a newbie at this, Naruto, even if you can make me feel a little hot, but let's say I'm willing to continue. You think you can still show me a thing or two, or do you want to stop? No, I am not done yet, he squealed. I saw this in a book, and I swear you'll like it. The night is still young? Did I say the right lines? Tsume nodded, laughing at his oddness. Naruto went down to the bathroom floor and pushed his head towards the mother's hairy pelvis. Tsume tried to stop him because she hadn't shaved down there for years, and the thought of the little Uzumaki having his mouth anywhere near that region was over the top, even for her. This place smells funny. I hope it doesn't taste as strange, but it's Tsume-san's, so it must be good. Uzumaki. Don't you dare, oh, she cried, but found herself moaning when the orphan's nose hit a place it wasn't meant to. The mother, in the future, would have to tell Naruto never to just jab his nostrils into her clitoris, it was too sensitive. Common sense dictated that Tsume was both faster and stronger than Naruto, but the relative amounts of estrogen high she was getting from this contact made her reluctant to do so. She wanted to see what else Naruto could do. A part of her actually expected Uzumaki go down to her flower and start licking, but seeing this actually being performed was a different story. Naruto, don't move your nose in there, get it out, or do it right, if you know what I mean. Just a minute, I just have to find, there it is. This looks a lot different from the books, Naruto said, his small hands parting her legs, which were automatically spreading, her toes curling up. I didn't know it was so pink, like gum, or cherries. Tsume-san, does it taste like gum? What are you waiting for? Damn it, Tsume barked, spitting out enough killer instincts to freeze the boy. This had been the closest she had gotten to breaking some serious laws in a long time, and the way the kid was making him wait was starting to piss her off. Hurry up, I am horny. Though technically if they didn't have sex, she wasn't doing anything wrong, and the kid sure looked happy. Weren't you gonna show me you're not just some greenhorn? You think you can please a woman? Well, here I am offering you a chance you won't ever get before. You shit for brains, now lick me. This is the closest you're ever gonna get from me giving ya doggy treats, you little fox. Lick me, or I swear I'll make you. Do it now. This screaming didn't deter the curious Naruto. The orphan's tiny fingers spread her flower apart and he was mesmerized at how far it went. He breathed in, then lifted his head to look at the crazed mother. It's like a tunnel. How far does it go? Not that far, and stop staring like that. Tsume was surprised that her body blushed and her uterus clenched. It's fucking embarrassing. At least close your eyes when you eat me. The next time you ask me a smart-ass question I will wrap my legs around your scrawny neck so hard you'll pop like an inflated condom. Gulping, Naruto did as instructed. He placed his face where her entrance was and started to lick her folds, scared that Tsume would make him eat it. He had read what that meant, and the idea of doing that to Kiba's mother had its appeal. But then there was the hair. Breathing out a sigh of tension, Tsume moaned, that feels good, but we really shouldn't. But. What the hell? She was just going to kill me a second ago if I didn't do anything. There is something wrong with her, oh well. At this encouragement, Naruto believed he could do better and made his small tongue rotate inside her. Baby, you're good. This caused the mother to buck her hips in response and shift uncomfortably. Okay, this isn't bad. You need some work, but this isn't. Oh, wow, that hit the spot. Oh, nice, yeah, keep that up. Right there, oh yeah, right there. Don't stop licking there. Naruto followed the requests of Kiba's mom, making his tongue go where he believed made her yelp a bit louder. Right. That's it. Oh, she groaned. I am coming. She sighed and gently lay on the floor looking up at the ceiling. As the ovarian juices splashed on the boy's face, Naruto had to ask something that was on his mind. Can't you do me? Naruto asked. Sorry, but no way, she admitted, feeling slightly guilty that she wouldn't be able to return the favor. She got up from the floor and crossed her legs, her face smiling viciously. Not until you are an adult. When is that? He asked, hoping it wouldn't be too long. Well, when you get your Chunin vest, but that isn't for long. That's all I have to do. Really? They both froze when their senses told them another person was nearby. Mommy, I am home. Kiba called from downstairs. It was great, Shino's bugs are so awesome and his mother made the best tofu dogs. Hearing the voice of Kiba calling, Naruto wrapped himself with Tsume's fluffy bathrobes, ran out of there, and jumped out from the bathroom window, feeling pumped with fear. Kiba, please don't smell me. He didn't want to know what his nemesis might do to him if he scented his mom's juices all over him. He had other things to worry about. Naruto now needed to pass that test, and even if he couldn't do a clone he would have to improve his scores in the other subjects to warrant a pass. Wearing his genin headband proudly, Naruto strutted down the busy streets of Konoha. As usual, the locals were cursing at him in the background. Lousy brat. How the douche did he pass the exam? My kid is still in the academy. Sneered Haruna Sakura's father, the village drunk. And she is schwest mart. I heard he didn't even make a proper clone, at least that Uchiha can replicate one. Now Uchiha Sasuke, he is a true hero. His father, the butcher, yelled proudly. They should have promoted him instead, so what if he couldn't get perfect on the written portion? He could still kick Naruto's ass in taijutsu any day of the week. Wait a minute, didn't Uzumaki save Sasuke? Another voice joined in, carrying 2 bags full of groceries, mostly ramen in its raw form. This man was slightly shorter than the others, and a few years older. He had the build of a retired fighter and a face of a friendly bystander. You know, Sasuke, the kid who went into a coma for a few months. Yeah, I guess, the butcher replied, scratching his purple beard. So wouldn't he technically be the hero? The old man asked, giving the human sacrifice a smile. While Sasuke is the damsel in distress? The orphan for his part was oblivious to all of this. He was on cloud number 9 and by the huge grin on his face, the old man had to judge this has to be one of the happiest moments of his life. He did after all put his life in danger for the boy, despite being his enemy. We all know how much Sasuke dislikes the brat, ever since his humiliation 3 years ago. Well, that is, shut up. Who asked you, fucking asshole ramen chief? Got to hell Tucci, get back in your stand. We don't come to Ichiraku and hassle you, an old lady yelled, hurling some rocks at Naruto, who didn't even bother to dodge them. This particular lady had a habit of tossing garbage at him, so he was used to just ignoring her because she had poor aim and only one good eye. In fact, that rock hit the butcher on his left temple, causing him to fall down on his stand, breaking the front counter with his massive girth. The old lady screamed, curse that child. It was his fault I missed because of his ill-begotten demon powers. I better leave. The old lady made a prompt run into an abandoned alley, where she would be mugged by a homeless man. Then again, he does have a point. I mean, he rescued Hiashi's kid and Makoto's kid, so he can't be that bad, right? A cross-eyed teen asked, giving Tucci a nod. They say time heals all wounds. That isn't exactly true, but it does dull the pain. Someday the village would stop hating the boy. If Naruto lived long enough to conquer the hatred, he might find himself in a place he didn't know was under his nose. Whispers of the boy's exploits had already started to grow around the crowd. Some people actually felt proud that they had a tragic hero like Naruto in their neighborhood, though the vast majority didn't see it that way. Most old men who didn't hate Naruto were perverts who liked Naruto the gutsy ninja from Ichiriku Paradise, so maybe it wasn't so much that they were good people, just disillusioned left-handed jerkers. Maybe he isn't so bad, you know, he kind of looks like Minato-san, doesn't he? Another old lady said. His last name is Uzumaki, do you think he could be? This only got more people in the crowd angry, and soon there was a debate about the whole issue of whether Naruto was a hero or the reincarnation of absolute evil. He is the devil, I say. He made me lose my job, and now I can't go home, the village drunk yelled, breaking a bottle in his hands as the shards pierced into his flesh, causing a few people to back away slowly. Haruna-san, there is no way in hell that Naruto got you fired from Konoha Sanitations. You did that to yourself. By the way, you should really go see your wife and little girl one of these days. I hear Sakura isn't doing so good, Tucci replied, actually feeling worried for the man's family. And don't the rest of you have better things to do with your time? This actually made a few people look at him with confusion. The majority of them really didn't have anything better to do except stew in their own festering hatred. You do realize that Cloud is already planning to restart another shinobi war over the Hyuga incident, do you not? Now this actually got some of the people to shut up. After 3 years of debates, the only agreement the councils of Cloud and Konoha could come up with was how many corpses the other would leave when the war ended. It was far too late to just hand over Hisashi's body, and in a few months everything was going to go to hell when the latest shinobi war would commence. It was probably why Naruto even got his promotion, or at least that was what Tucci suspected. I am not the only one who is aware of what the boy really is, am I? We are a ninja village. This isn't the first time something like Naruto exists, and if history does indeed repeat itself, we are really going to need him when Cloud unleashes the other two chakra beasts. This debate got people talking, debating on the merits of Naruto's usefulness. I have to get back to the stand. I know you people are smarter than you give yourself credit for. To really think Naruto is a demon is an insult to this village and all it stands for. That was true, the villagers weren't as dumb as they looked. I don't think any of you truly believe he is a monster. We all went to the Shinobi Academy, even if the majority of us failed, and we all know about the Valley of the End. That jogged a few memories from history class. Everyone was aware of the battle between Madara and Hiroshima.
This isn't the first time Konoha has had possession of the Kyuubi in its walls, and when Cloud attacks I am sure you'll see where the other two chakra beasts went. I just hope when the time comes, Naruto is willing to fight first with everything he has, because I can guarantee the other two will fight with everything they got. Silence met this declaration as the ramen vendor walked down the street. When he got far enough the old man mumbled to himself. These people are idiots, there are more brain cells in my feces. Nothing I said is even a big secret, yet everyone always acts like this is the first time they hear about it, always saying I am just a bitter cook. He sneered, so maybe I am. At least I can see that he is just a 9-year-old looking for affection, but hey, what do I know, I just cook ramen.
Naruto didn't have to go much further and started to jump across the buildings, pumping chakra through his ankles. One of the reasons he was able to pass was due to his ability to force chakra through his body like it was second nature. Intent goes in, chakra comes out.
The orphan's gift of pressuring huge amounts of energy through his pores allowed him to leap moderately high distances with ease. Weird, is this the right place? It looks like a dump. Wouldn't a Junin make enough money to live better? The second reason he passed was simple. Naruto-kun, I didn't know you knew over 100 ninjutsu. Suzume had cooed. Needless to say those extra credit scores were a huge boost, even if Iruka wasn't too happy about it. But the scarred man still handed over his headband. Good luck, Naruto. I still don't think you're ready, but I won't hold this pass against you. Naruto found himself in a broken-down apartment. It looked a lot like his own, however unlike the place he lived in, the doors didn't have any graffiti of demon foxes. Okay, stay calm, you can do this, just make a good first impression.
He knocked the door. No one answered. Thinking of a way to deal with this issue, he decided to open the door and see if anyone was inside first of all. Hello, anyone in here?
When he got no reply, he stepped in through the door and tried not to vomit at the stench of booze and decaying pizza crusts. He looked around for any life forms and found nothing. As he got closer and closer into the kitchen, the heart of the foul odor, he found more beer and porn magazines covering the floor. He has a lot of issues of G-Cup Monthly and MILFdom. I wonder if he would let me borrow a few copies. Finally, after searching the apartment, he sensed a small signature in the kitchen. Here he found a tall, gangly teenager, wearing an Anbu uniform and a dog mask, lay there sleeping. Should I wake him up?
Naruto kicked the man in the side of the stomach, prompting him to get up, holding a kunai out and looking like he was being chased by 100 assassins. I wasn't sleeping. You'll never take me alive. Save me, sensei. Then he blinked. Wait a minute, this is my place. He realized there was no one there, except for the face of an all-too-familiar blonde. But the Anbu captain had no choice but to act the part of the stranger, despite how insane he looked a moment ago. Technically, Naruto wasn't supposed to know of his existence or his habit of following him around. Who the hell are you? He asked. Have we met before?
Your new student, Naruto said smugly. The name's Uzumaki Naruto, you crazy stinking drunk. By the way, do you mind if I borrow this one, sensei? I have never read GILF before. These ladies look pretty old, and this one on PG-7 is bald, but I can see her appeal. I didn't even know boobs could get that big yet hold their elasticity, so I'll let it slide. But I have an odd feeling I have seen this old girl on PG.3 somewhere, I just can't put my finger on it.
Kakashi blinked a few times, seeing Uchiha Kaharu's naughty moments caught on camera. Truthfully, he hadn't even read most of these piles of smut, and wasn't even aware the council elder was into such strange fetishes, but to each his own, he guessed. He just hoped no one published any of his naughty pics anywhere. He really shouldn't have gotten drunk with Guy that one night. He heard the sounds of flashes from a camera in that memory, so that evening was going to come back to bite him in the ass, anus, someday. Feeling the leftovers of his hangover, the captain rubbed his eyes, trying to see if this was a dream. It was just too strange to think a 9-year-old would know what all of this meant. He pinched himself to make sure. Huh, what do you know? Watching the boy sit down beside him and read the magazine with the concentration of a sage, he couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. This was almost like his childhood, sitting by his teacher, reading smut. Good times. Only he didn't recall being as young as the blonde beside him. Still, there is something so wrong about this, but who am I to judge others? I mean, look at how much Vaseline there is lying around. But I can do it right, this is my shot, he thought. This was his chance, he had to take it. The spiral of student and teacher was upon him. It was his turn to teach the next generation, his teacher's son, and maybe someday the boy would teach his kids, to complete an everlasting cycle that would extend into infinity. He sneered under his mask, hoping Naruto didn't notice, knowing how proud his godfather would be. Not yet, Naruto, we are going to drop by the Hokage's office to pick up your other two potential teammates. Let's just say the three of you will have to pass a rather interesting test before you can call yourself my students. Then he smiled, closing his eyes, making him look comical. But on the plus side, if you all pass, your teammates will happen to be two kunoichi. They are a little old, their teams just got cancelled and they are in a temporary shuffle. Then he looked serious. One is a 14-year-old genin and the other is a 16-year-old chunin. I hope you don't mind, do you, Uzumaki-san? Seeing the fire in Naruto's eyes and the fierce blush rising in his cheeks, Kakashi had to smile. His smile was so big it threatened to tear his mask, which was strange because underneath his mask was another mask, so it took a lot to break them. At least he isn't going to flame me for reading Ichiraku. This boy was everything he wanted in a student and more. He had better pass the bell test. Jiraiya must see this. This boy is like the son he never had, and the best part is no one can blame me if he does turn out to be a super pervert. He paused to watch the boy flip through his books. Judging by how he is holding onto those GILF magazines, he has some real potential. A part of Kakashi told himself he had better check if any of his higher quality porn was stolen by the end of this meeting. Uzumaki Naruto was a tricky one. Naruto didn't know why his teacher started to laugh after talking to himself as if he wasn't there. Should I just pretend I can't hear him? This better not be part of that conspiracy Itachi told me about. The orphan frowned. Curse you, you bloody psychopath. Now you made me paranoid. Little did he know that was the best advice anyone would ever give him. Okay, let's go find your feisty new teammates so we can see if you got what it takes to be a part of Team Kakashi. He looked around the room, noticing something was missing. Where in the world did my fox mask go? Sensei, I found this little girl in that snowy bridge, Naruto said, pointing to the black-haired lass on his back. Despite being called little, she was still bigger, and looked somewhat older than Naruto. I think she has some kind of bloodline. She's been surviving in this frozen city without a coat or anything, and there seems to be large trails of ice leading up to her path. Plus it's like -40 out here, what do you think? Naruto, I think you did a great job. Konoha could always use more blood limits, the lanky teenaged ex-Anbu captain commented, his attention somewhere else. But did you notice there was a mist ninja with a giant cleaver following you? 9-year-old Naruto turned to see the said man. The ominous figure waved. That isn't Zabuza of the Seven Swords, is it? The burly man was already removing the enormous sword from his back, while making the area go foggy. Crap, you don't think he is after the girl, do you? The ex-Anbu looked at Naruto like he was an idiot. I'm out of chakra from the last mission to Cloud. This war has really been taking its toll on me. Hana and Eureka went to the water country resort, so not much I can do to call them back. I think we should run, Kakashi said. Naruto started building up his reserves to make a fast retreat. He looked annoyed at his teacher's tactics. That seemed to be his solution for everything. But today he had a feeling they were going to get caught. Great, this is a race. Last one back to Konoha gets his legs cut off the end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.